We begin with a quiet exhale, acknowledging the paradox of useless facts for sleep. The mind needs a thread to follow, but not one so bright it keeps you awake. We will drift through oddly specific data points: the exact temperature of a sneeze, the day the last dodo died, the origin of the word trousers. If you forget any of this in the next 10 minutes, that is precisely the point. We begin with the air around you. The word trousers comes from the Gaelic triubus, meaning close-fitting shorts. It is a plural noun, but unlike scissors, it has a singular form, trouser, which was once used regularly and now sits in the dictionary nearly forgotten. A lone garment no one mentions. Cleave is a contronym. It means to split apart, and also to adhere closely. If you cleave a piece of wood, you divide it. If you cleave to someone, you hold them tight. The same sound pulling in opposite directions. In 1934, a ghost word called dord appeared in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. It was defined as density, but it was simply a typo for d, or do, an abbreviation used in physics. It remained there for 5 years before anyone noticed, a word that meant nothing, printed in thousands of copies. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. This sentence uses every letter in the alphabet, but it does so in only 35 characters. It is efficient, but not maximally so. There are shorter pangrams, though they tend to read less smoothly. The word bookkeeper has 3 consecutive double letters, OO, KK, EE. It is one of the few English words where this occurs. You can write it without lifting your pen, but it still looks slightly wrong. Queuing is the only English word with 5 vowels in a row. 5. If you prefer British spelling, you get even more. Queuing stretches to 6 in some forms, all those vowels just waiting for the consonant that never comes. The letter E appears more than any other in English, but S is the most common starting letter. Words that begin with S outnumber all others, though E appears more overall. The balance of written language favors one sound at the start and another throughout. The longest English word is the chemical name for the protein titin. It is 189,819 letters long. It takes over 3 hours to pronounce. No one has ever used it in conversation. It exists only for the sake of existing. The word set has the most definitions of any English word. Over 430 distinct uses. Set the table, set the clock, set in motion, set a record. It can be a verb, a noun, or an adjective, a word that carries so much meaning it nearly means nothing. Rhythm is the longest English word without a standard vowel. It relies on the letter Y, which behaves like a vowel in this case. If you count Y as a vowel, it is simply a short word. If you do not, it is an anomaly. The expression "son of a gun" comes from sailors born aboard ships, literally between the guns on the deck. On a naval vessel, space was limited, and women sometimes accompanied their husbands. A child born there was a child of the guns. The word alphabet is just the first 2 Greek letters, alpha and beta, spoken together. We never say beta alpha. The order was set long ago, and we have followed it without question. A small accident of convention that became permanent. In the Amazon, there is a language called Pirahan. It has no words for numbers, not 1, not 2, not even a concept of counting. If there is more than one thing, it is simply more. The speakers cannot count beyond 1, but they do not seem to miss it. On the Canary Islands, shepherds once used a whistled language called Silbo Gomero. They could communicate across valleys up to 3 miles away. The whistles carry pitch and rhythm, replicating Spanish grammar. It is the only whistled language recognized by UNESCO. In Bolivia and Peru, speakers of Aymara gesture backward when they talk about the future. Because the future is unseen, it is placed behind them. The past, which they can see and know, lies ahead. Time flows in the opposite direction from what most languages assume. The Tuyuca language of the Amazon requires speakers to state their source of knowledge. You cannot simply say the man went to the river without adding whether you saw it, heard it, or were told. Every claim carries a grammatical mark of its origin. The show language of Botswana uses over 100 distinct sounds. More than 80 of those are click consonants. It is one of the most phonetically complex languages in the world. The clicks are not separate sounds. They are woven into words alongside vowels and tones. The word goodbye began as a shortening of God be with you. Over time, the phrase contracted and lost its religious meaning. It is now a neutral parting word. You can say it without thinking about what it once meant. The word nice used to mean foolish or ignorant. It came from the Latin necius, meaning not knowing. By the 14th century, it had shifted to mean excessively particular. By the 18th century, it meant pleasant, a word that has traveled far from its roots. The word silly once meant blessed or happy. In Old English, it meant worthy or holy. Over centuries, it softened to mean weak, then foolish, then frivolous, a word that has fallen from grace. The word awful originally meant full of awe. It was a positive quality, associated with wonder and reverence. Now it means terrible. The word has not changed in sound, only in the feeling it carries. The word egregious once meant remarkably good. It came from the Latin grex, meaning flock, standing out from the herd. Over time it shifted to mean standing out in a negative way, the same distinction, now inverted. The word terrific used to mean causing terror. It had the same root as terrible. In the 19th century, it began to be used informally to mean excellent. Now it implies something admirable, not frightening. The word meat originally meant any solid food. In Old English, it referred to nourishment in general. Over time, it narrowed to animal flesh, while the word food took over the broader meaning. The word girl once meant a young person of any gender. In Middle English, it referred to a child regardless of sex. It gradually shifted to mean specifically a female child. The word boy took longer to emerge as a counterpart. The word moot originally meant a meeting or assembly, a place where people gathered to debate. A moot point was something open to discussion. Now it means irrelevant or not worth debating. The meeting has ended. The word presently once meant now or immediately. In earlier usage, it referred to the current moment. Over time, it came to mean soon or in the near future. The same word, pointing to two different moments. The word literally has been used as an intensifier since the 18th century. It originally meant in a strict sense, but it has been used to emphasize figuratively for centuries. The usage is common, but the conflict is older than we think. The word decimate once meant to reduce by 1/10. In ancient practice, it was a punishment. Every 10th soldier was killed. Now it means to destroy most of something. The scale has changed, but the weight remains. The word peruse once meant to examine carefully. It came from an older sense of use, meaning to go through thoroughly. Over time, it softened to mean simply read or browse. The careful attention has faded from the word. The phrase raining cats and dogs likely comes from old drainage systems. In 17th century London, heavy rain would wash dead animals into the streets. The image stuck, and the phrase became a metaphor for downpours. The phrase stealing your thunder comes from a 17th century playwright. He had a stage machine that created thunder sounds, and a rival stole it for another production. The theft took the noise, not the weather. The phrase ringing a bell refers to the Pavlovian response. When a bell sounds, an animal salivates. When we hear something familiar, we say it rings a bell, as if the memory is a reflex we cannot control. The phrase bite the bullet comes from battlefield surgery before anesthesia. Soldiers were given a bullet to bite on during operations. The pain was so severe that the bullet left marks. The phrase remains as a memory of that pain. There is a term for the study of letters and word origins, etymology, and there is a term for the study of dictionaries, lexicography, and a term for the study of sounds, phonology, words that name themselves in a way. There is a term for the study of meaning in language, semantics. It comes from the Greek semaino, meaning to signify. The meaning of the word reflects its purpose, to study how things mean. There is a term for the study of sentence structure, syntax. It comes from the Greek syntasein, meaning to arrange together. Sentences are arranged together in ways that are specific to each language. The English language contains about 1 million words. Most speakers use only about 20,000 in everyday life. The rest wait in dictionaries, rarely summoned. The average dictionary is read from start to finish by almost no one. Lexicographers spend their lives cataloging words that will be checked occasionally, but never learned. A quiet profession for a quiet subject. We have spent time with words, their origins, their shifts, their quiet contradictions. Now we turn inward, to the body you inhabit without thinking, to the skin that replaces itself, the stomach that digests itself, the heart that beats while you sleep. The body keeps a diary you never read. We begin with the surface. The skin is the largest organ you have. It makes up about 16% of your body weight. If you could lay it flat, it would cover roughly 2 square meters. It completely replaces itself every 27 days. The skin you are in now is not the skin you had last month. It is constantly shedding, renewing, sealing you in. Your stomach produces a new layer of mucus every 2 weeks. This mucus prevents the stomach from digesting itself. Without it, the acids that break down food would also break down the stomach wall. The organ essentially coats itself in a protective film. That film dissolves and reforms on a quiet schedule. The human nose can remember 50,000 different scents, but you lose the ability to smell a new scent after 3 breaths in a row. The nose is designed for novelty. It registers change, not persistence. That is why you cannot smell your own home after a few minutes inside. It takes about 18 seconds for a sneeze to travel from your nose to your brain. The signal is triggered by irritation in the nasal passages. It travels up the trigeminal nerve, and the brain responds with a coordinated expulsion of air. 18 seconds from irritation to reaction. The cornea is the only part of the human body without blood supply. It gets oxygen directly from the air. The surface of the eye breathes through its exposed layer. That is why contact lenses can sometimes be uncomfortable. They block the air that the cornea needs. Humans are the only primates with chins. Gorillas have jawbones that slope backward. Chimpanzees have no forward projection. The human chin is a distinct bony prominence that appears only in our species. No one knows exactly why it evolved, but it remains uniquely ours. The acid in your stomach is strong enough to dissolve razor blades. Its pH is between 1 and 2, comparable to battery acid. But the lining of the intestine neutralizes it before it can cause damage. The stomach produces about 3 liters of gastric juice each day. You swallow most of it without noticing. You produce roughly 25,000 quarts of saliva in a lifetime. That is enough to fill 2 standard swimming pools. Saliva is mostly water, but it contains enzymes that begin breaking down food in the mouth. You are producing it right now, without any effort. The tongue is the strongest muscle in the body for its size. It is not the strongest overall, but relative to its weight, it generates significant force. The tongue can exert about 40 pounds of pressure on the roof of the mouth. It is also the most sensitive muscle in the body. The small intestine is about 22 feet long, but only 1 inch in diameter. It fits into the abdomen by folding into loops. If it were not coiled, it would not fit inside the human torso. The large intestine is wider but shorter, only about 5 feet. The heart beats about 100,000 times a day. It does so without stopping, without rest, without conscious input. During deep sleep, the resting heart rate drops to around 40 to 50 beats per minute. The heart works harder when you are awake, but it works longest when you are lying still. The human body contains enough iron to forge a 3-inch nail. Not a large nail, but a functional one. The iron is stored in hemoglobin, the protein that carries oxygen in red blood cells. If you extracted all of it, you would have a small, dark piece of metal. The body produces about 2 million red blood cells every second. They live for about 120 days, then are broken down in the spleen. The iron is recycled for new cells. You are constantly replacing your blood without knowing it. Your bones are about 50% water. They are not dry, brittle structures. They are porous and hydrated. The water content helps them resist compression. The mineral part gives them hardness, but the water gives them flexibility. Your brain weighs about 3 pounds. That is roughly 2% of your body weight, but it uses about 20% of your oxygen and calories. The brain is hungry, even when you are asleep. It consumes more than any other organ relative to its size. Your brain generates about 20 watts of electrical power while you are awake. That is enough to power a dim light bulb. The electricity comes from chemical signals between neurons. You are lighting a small lamp inside your skull at all times. Your brain can survive for about 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen before damage begins. After that, cells start to die. The body prioritizes the brain above all other organs. It sends oxygen there first, even if other tissues go without. Your liver can regenerate itself. If you remove up to 75% of it, the remaining tissue can grow back to its original size. It is the only organ in the human body with this ability. The liver does not wait. It begins regrowing immediately. Your kidneys filter about 180 liters of blood each day. That is roughly 50 gallons. They remove waste and excess fluid, producing about 1 to 2 liters of urine. The kidneys work continuously even while you sleep. Your lungs contain about 300 million tiny air sacs called alveoli. If you spread them flat, they would cover an area the size of a tennis court. The surface area is enormous because it needs to exchange oxygen efficiently. You breathe about 20,000 times a day. Your eyelashes have a lifespan of about 3 to 5 months. They grow, fall out, and are replaced continuously. The upper lashes are longer, about 10 millimeters, while the lower lashes are shorter. You have about 150 lashes on each upper lid. Your nose and ears never stop growing. The cartilage in them continues to enlarge throughout adulthood. They do not grow quickly, but they grow steadily. That is why older faces look slightly different than younger ones. Your feet have about 250,000 sweat glands each. That is more than any other part of the body. The soles are designed to keep you cool through evaporation. You lose about a cup of moisture through your feet each day. Your fingernails grow faster than your toenails. The nails on your dominant hand grow even faster than those on the non-dominant hand. Nails grow at about 3 millimeters per month. The rate slows slightly with age. Your hair grows about half an inch per month. It grows faster in warm weather than in cold. Hair is made of keratin, the same protein as nails and rhinoceros horns. It is dead tissue from the moment it emerges from the scalp. Your jawbone is the strongest bone in your face, but it is still relatively fragile. The bone can withstand about 270 pounds of pressure, but the teeth embedded in it are stronger. Enamel is the hardest substance in the body. Your spine has 33 vertebrae, but only 24 are movable. The lower 9 are fused into the sacrum and coccyx. The spine is curved in an S shape, which absorbs shock and distributes weight. That curve is unique to humans. Your shoulder is the most flexible joint in the body. It can rotate in nearly any direction, but that flexibility comes at a cost. The shoulder is also the most dislocated joint. The trade-off between mobility and stability is built into your skeleton. Your ears contain the smallest bones in the body. The stapes, or stirrup bone, is about 3 millimeters long. It transmits sound vibrations from the middle ear to the inner ear. Without it, you could not hear. Your ears also contain crystals of calcium carbonate. These crystals help you sense gravity and movement. If they dislodge, you experience vertigo. The crystals are tiny, but they keep you oriented in space. Your taste buds are replaced every 10 days. They are small clusters of sensory cells on the tongue. As you age, some taste buds stop regenerating. That is why food tastes different to older people. Your pupils dilate when you see something you like. They also dilate when you are concentrating or frightened. The response is involuntary. You cannot control it. The pupil opens to let in more light, but it also opens to let in more of the world. Your heart has its own electrical system. It generates its own rhythm, independent of the brain. If you disconnect the heart from the nervous system, it will still beat. The heart is a self-contained engine. There is a condition called synesthesia, where senses overlap. Some people see colors when they hear sounds. Others taste shapes or feel textures when they see numbers. The brain processes information differently, blending the senses in ways most people never experience. There is a term for the study of sleep, somnology. It covers the biology of rest, the stages of consciousness, and the effects of deprivation. You are in a state of sleep right now, or close to it. The study of sleep is one of the few fields where the subject is happening as you study it. We have moved through words and through the body. Now we shift outward, to the surface of the earth, to the lines drawn on maps, the temperatures recorded in deserts, the winds that have been measured and logged. Geography is quiet. It does not demand attention. It simply is. We begin with the driest place on Earth. The driest place on Earth is the Atacama Desert in Chile. Some weather stations there have never recorded a single drop of rain, not once. The desert is so dry that some regions are used as analogues for Mars. Scientists test rovers there because the soil is closer to another planet than to any other place on Earth. The only land border with no guard presence is between Canada and Greenland. It lies on Hans Island, a small piece of rock in the Nares Strait. The two countries share the island peacefully. They have even traded flags and whiskey, though there is no official patrol. The highest temperature ever recorded on Earth was 56.7 degrees Celsius. That is 134 degrees Fahrenheit. It was measured in Death Valley, California, in July of 1913. The ground was hot enough to cook an egg without a pan. The lowest temperature ever recorded was negative 89.2 degrees Celsius. That is negative 128.6 degrees Fahrenheit. It was measured at the Vostok Station in Antarctica. The air there is so cold that frost forms inside the instruments. Mount Everest is the highest point on Earth. Its peak reaches 8,848 meters above sea level, but Mauna Kea in Hawaii is taller from base to peak. Most of it is underwater, but if you measure from the ocean floor, it exceeds 10,000 meters. There is a place in the Pacific Ocean called Point Nemo. It is the farthest point from any landmass. The nearest humans are often astronauts on the International Space Station. They orbit about 400 kilometers above, while the nearest land is over 2,000 kilometers away. Russia borders 14 countries. That is the most of any nation on Earth. It is also larger than Pluto. The surface area of Russia is about 17 million square kilometers. Pluto is only about 16 million square kilometers, a country larger than a dwarf planet. The longest flight in the world lasts 18 hours and 50 minutes. It travels from New York to Singapore. The distance is over 15,000 kilometers. Passengers on that flight experience 2 sunrises. They leave at night and arrive after dawn, but they have not slept much. The Caspian Sea is technically a lake. It is the largest enclosed body of water on Earth. It covers about 371,000 square kilometers. There is no outlet to the ocean, so it accumulates salt. It is not quite a sea, but it is not quite a lake either. The fastest wind speed ever recorded on Earth was 408 kilometers per hour. That is 253 miles per hour. It was measured during a tornado in Oklahoma in May of 1999. The wind was fast enough to tear houses from their foundations. The Gobi Desert is not sandy. It is mostly bare rock and gravel. The sand that exists there is concentrated in certain areas, but the rest is hard, dry ground. The name Gobi comes from the Mongolian word for waterless place. It is not a sea of dunes. The average depth of the ocean is 3,700 meters. That is about 2 miles. 80% of the ocean remains unmapped. We have better maps of the moon than we do of the seafloor. The deep ocean is one of the least explored places on Earth. The highest waterfall in the world is Angel Falls in Venezuela. It drops 979 meters. That is nearly 1 kilometer of uninterrupted water. The water evaporates before it reaches the bottom in dry seasons. The longest river in the world is the Nile. It stretches about 6,650 kilometers. The Amazon is slightly shorter, but it carries more water. The Nile flows north, while the Amazon flows east. Both are ancient, but they move differently. The largest desert in the world is not the Sahara, it is Antarctica. A desert is defined by low precipitation, not by sand. Antarctica receives less than 50 millimeters of precipitation per year. It is a cold desert, but it is still a desert. The Dead Sea is the lowest point on land. Its surface is about 430 meters below sea level. The water is so salty that nothing lives in it. You can float without swimming because the density is higher than human density. The Great Barrier Reef is the largest living structure on Earth. It covers about 344,000 square kilometers. That is larger than Italy. The reef is made of coral polyps, each one smaller than a grain of rice. The Atacama Desert holds the record for the longest dry spell. Some areas went without rain for 400 years. The soil there contains nitrate deposits that were used for fertilizer and explosives. The dryness preserved them for centuries. The Andes Mountains are the longest mountain range in the world. They stretch over 7,000 kilometers along the western edge of South America. The range contains more than 50 peaks, over 6,000 meters. Most of those peaks are volcanoes. The Amazon River releases more water than the next 7 largest rivers combined. It accounts for about 20% of all fresh water entering the ocean. The river is so wide that you cannot see the other side in some places. It looks like a sea. The Sahara Desert expands by about 800 square kilometers per year. It grows southward into the Sahel. The expansion is driven by climate patterns and land use. The desert is not stable, it moves. The largest lake by volume is Lake Baikal in Russia. It holds about 22% of the world's fresh surface water. It is also the deepest lake, reaching 1,637 meters. The lake contains unique species found nowhere else. The most remote inhabited island is Tristan da Cunha. It lies in the South Atlantic Ocean, about 2,800 kilometers from South Africa. The island has about 250 residents. They are isolated by weather and distance. The largest island in the world is Greenland. It covers about 2 million square kilometers. Most of it is covered by ice. The ice sheet is up to 3 kilometers thick in some places. The highest waterfall in North America is Yosemite Falls. It drops 739 meters in 3 tiers. The falls are fed by snowmelt, so they are strongest in spring. In late summer, they can slow to a trickle. The oldest known rock formation on Earth is the Acasta Gneiss in Canada. It is about 4 billion years old. The rock contains some of the earliest evidence of crust formation. It is older than most living things by billions of years. The largest cave system in the world is Mammoth Cave in Kentucky. It has more than 650 kilometers of mapped passages. The caves are still being explored. New passages are discovered almost every year. The deepest known cave is the Veryovkina Cave in Georgia. It descends 2,212 meters. That is over a mile straight down. The bottom of the cave is dark, warm, and humid. The largest crater on Earth is the Vredefort crater in South Africa. It is about 300 kilometers in diameter. It was formed by an asteroid impact about 2 billion years ago. The crater is barely visible now. It has eroded over time. The most active volcano in the world is Kilauea in Hawaii. It has been erupting continuously since 1983. The lava flows into the ocean, creating new land. The island of Hawaii grows larger each year. The fastest continental drift is in the Pacific. The Pacific plate moves about 7 centimeters per year. That is about the rate that your fingernails grow. The movement is slow, but it is steady. The longest day of the year is the summer solstice. It occurs in June in the northern hemisphere. The day length varies depending on latitude. At the Arctic Circle, the sun does not set at all. The shortest day of the year is the winter solstice. It occurs in December in the northern hemisphere. The day length is shorter than any other day. At the Arctic Circle, the sun does not rise at all. Earth's tilt is about 23.5 degrees. That tilt causes the seasons. If the tilt were different, the seasons would be different, or non-existent. The tilt is stable, but it shifts slightly over thousands of years. The circumference of Earth at the equator is about 40,000 kilometers. That number is almost exactly divisible by 24, the number of hours in a day. The relationship is not a coincidence. The meter was originally defined as 1/10,000,000th of the distance from the equator to the pole. We have traced the surface of the Earth, its driest places, its deepest waters, its slow movements. Now we turn to the objects that surround you, the things you touch, wear, and use without thought. Each one has an origin, a first moment, a quiet story. We begin with the things that block the sun. The first commercial pair of sunglasses were sold by Sam Foster in 1929. He sold them not for protection from UV rays, but to hide actors' eyes from studio lights. The lenses were dark, and the actors wore them between takes. Soon, people began wearing them on the street. A prop became a necessity. The zipper was originally called the clasp locker. It was invented in 1851 by Elias Howe, who also invented the sewing machine. But Howe did not market it. The modern zipper was developed later by Gideon Sundback in 1913. He redesigned the clasp to interlock more securely. The name zipper came from B.F. Goodrich in 1923, who used it on rubber boots. The microwave was discovered by accident. Percy Spencer stood in front of a radar array in 1945, and a chocolate bar melted in his pocket. He tested popcorn and an egg next. The egg exploded. He realized that the radar waves were cooking food from the inside. The microwave oven was born. The first barcode was scanned on a pack of Wrigley's gum in 1974. The gum was purchased at a Marsh supermarket in Ohio. The barcode was a simple pattern of vertical lines. It scanned successfully and changed retail forever. The gum is still on display at the Smithsonian. Bubble wrap was invented in 1957 as wallpaper. The inventors wanted to create a textured wall covering with a paper backing. The idea failed, but they realized it could be used for packaging. Today it protects everything from dishes to electronics. A failed decoration became a shipping essential. The slot machine was invented by Charles Fay in 1895. The first fruit symbols were not used to dispense money. They were used to give out gum. The Liberty Bell machine paid out in chewing gum. Fruit flavors corresponded to different payouts. The gum kept it legal in places where gambling was banned. The first email was sent by Ray Tomlinson in 1971. It was a test string of letters sent between two computers sitting next to each other. He does not remember what the message said. It was likely something like Queta Chewiop or testing. The first email contained nothing memorable. The first umbrella dates back to Mesopotamia. It was used as a parasol for sun protection, not for rain. The umbrella was a status symbol. Only royalty carried them. The word umbrella comes from the Latin umbra, meaning shade. The shade came first, then the rain. The first photograph of a person was taken in 1838. The image is of a street in Paris, and a man is getting his shoes shined. He had to stand still for 10 minutes while the exposure captured him. He is the only person visible in the photograph. Everyone else moved too fast to be seen. The QWERTY keyboard layout was designed to slow down typists. Early typewriters jammed when keys struck too quickly. The layout was arranged to separate commonly used letter pairs. It did not slow typists in practice, but the layout stuck. It was a mechanical solution to a mechanical problem. The safety pin was invented by Walter Hunt in 1849. He designed it to pay off a debt of $15. He twisted a single piece of wire into a spring and a clasp. He sold the patent for $400. He could have made millions, but the debt was cleared. The first commercial flight took place in 1914. It was a 20-minute journey from St. Petersburg to Tampa, Florida. The plane was a Benoist 14s, and it carried one passenger. The passenger was a former mayor. The flight cost $400 in today's money. The first telephone was invented by Alexander Graham Bell in 1876. The first words spoken were, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you." Watson was in the next room. The phone worked immediately, but no one believed it would. The first television was demonstrated in 1926 by John Logie Baird. The image was a moving shadow of his business partner's head. The picture was blurred and low resolution. Baird worked in a small room with scrap materials. The television began with a ghost. The first computer mouse was made of wood. It was invented by Douglas Engelbart in 1964. The housing was a carved block of pine, and the cord came out the back. It looked like a mouse. The name stuck, and the wood was replaced with plastic. The first webcam was designed to monitor a coffee pot. Researchers at Cambridge University wanted to see if their coffee was ready without leaving their desks. They set up a camera and transmitted the image over the network. The coffee pot was monitored for years. The first digital camera was invented in 1975 by Stephen Sasson. It weighed 8 pounds and had a resolution of 100 pixels square. The images were stored on cassette tape. The first photograph took 23 seconds to capture. The camera was a clunky prototype. The first battery was invented by Alessandro Volta in 1800. It was made of alternating discs of zinc and copper, separated by cardboard soaked in salt water. The arrangement produced a steady current. Volta's invention was the first reliable source of electricity. The volt is named after him. The first fire extinguisher was invented in 1819 by George Manby. It was a copper vessel filled with potassium carbonate solution. The solution was pressurized with compressed air. The extinguisher was aimed at the base of the fire. It worked, but it was heavy and impractical. The first refrigerator was invented in 1748. It was a wooden box lined with tin, and it used ice to cool. The first mechanical refrigerator appeared in 1851. It used vapor compression to cool air. The modern refrigerator did not become common until the 1920s. The first escalator was installed at the Old Iron Pier in Coney Island in 1896. It was a moving staircase with wooden steps. Riders were nervous at first. The steps were eventually replaced with metal. The first traffic light was installed in London in 1868. It was a gas-lit signal with red and green arms. It exploded after a few weeks. The explosion killed a police officer. Electric traffic lights came later. The first cash register was invented in 1879 by James Ritty. He was a saloon owner who wanted to stop theft. The register had a bell that rang when the drawer opened. The sound alerted management to every sale. The first vacuum cleaner was invented in 1901 by Hubert Cecil Booth. It was powered by an engine and was too large to fit inside a house. It was pulled by horses through the streets. The machine was called the Puffing Billy. It cleaned carpets using suction. The first electric fan was invented in 1882 by Schuyler Wheeler. It had 2 blades and was plugged into a direct current motor. The fan was marketed to cool offices and homes. It was expensive but effective. The first ballpoint pen was patented in 1888 by John Loud, but his design did not work well. It leaked and clogged. The modern ballpoint was developed in 1938 by Laszlo Biro. His pen used a smoother ink and worked reliably. The Biro is still used today. The first vacuum flask was invented by James Dewar in 1892. It kept liquids cold or hot by using a vacuum between 2 glass walls. The vacuum prevented heat transfer. Dewar's flask is still used today in thermoses and lab equipment. The first can opener was invented 48 years after the can. Cans were invented in 1810, but the opener did not appear until 1858. Before that, people opened cans with chisels and hammers. The can opener was a minor innovation, but it made the can useful. The first postage stamp was the penny black, issued in 1840. It featured a profile of Queen Victoria. The stamp was black and cost 1 penny. It could be used to send a letter anywhere in the UK. The penny black was used for 1 year before being replaced. The first sewing machine was patented in 1846 by Elias Howe. He won a lawsuit against Isaac Singer, who had improved his design. Howe's patent was enforced, and he received royalties for every machine sold. He died a wealthy man. The first toothbrush with bristles was made in China in the 15th century. The handle was bone or bamboo, and the bristles were boar hair. The design was simple and lasted for centuries. The modern nylon brush was introduced in 1938. The first pencil was developed in 1565 in England. A large deposit of graphite was discovered in Borrowdale. The graphite was cut into sticks and wrapped in string or leather. The modern wooden pencil was introduced later in the 18th century. There is a term for the study of objects and their history, material culture. It looks at how objects are made, used, and discarded. Every object has a story, even if no one remembers it. The things you touch have traveled through time to reach you. We have examined the objects that surround you, their origins, their first moments, their quiet persistence. Now we turn to time itself, to the dates that mark beginnings and ends, the records that stand unbroken, the numbers that anchor history. Time moves forward, but we stop to look at specific moments. We begin with the calendar. The year 2026 is part of the third millennium and the 21st century. But the third millennium started on January 1st, 2001, not 2000. There was no year zero. The calendar went from 1 BC to AD 1 without a pause. The new millennium began 1 year later than most people celebrated. The last execution by guillotine in France took place in 1977. The condemned man was Hamida Jandoubi, convicted of murder. The guillotine was still the official method of execution in France at the time. It was used for nearly 200 years before being abolished in 1981. The shortest war in history lasted 38 minutes. It was fought between Britain and Zanzibar in 1896. Zanzibar surrendered after less than an hour of bombardment. The war ended before most soldiers had time to fire their weapons. The oldest known written document is a receipt. It records a transaction of 20 bars of silver. The receipt was discovered in Mesopotamia and dates to around 5000 BC. The first writing was not poetry or history, it was accounting. The first person to break the sound barrier was Chuck Yeager in 1947. He flew a plane named Glamorous Glennis. The plane was an X-1 rocket-powered aircraft. Yeager broke the barrier at an altitude of 13,000 meters. The sonic boom was heard on the ground. The first manned flight to Mars is projected for the 2030s. But the first living being to orbit Earth was a dog named Laika in 1957. Laika was a stray from Moscow, and she was launched on Sputnik 2. She did not survive the mission. Her capsule orbited for months before burning up. The first photograph of Earth from space was taken in 1946. It was captured from a captured German V-2 rocket. The rocket reached an altitude of 105 kilometers. The image showed the curvature of the Earth against the blackness of space. It was the first time humans saw their planet from above. The first Olympic Games were held in 776 BC. The winner received an olive wreath, not a medal. The wreath was made from a sacred olive tree. The victors were celebrated as heroes, but they received no gold. The last known passenger pigeon died in 1914. Her name was Martha, and she lived in the Cincinnati Zoo. She died in her cage, and the species went extinct. Passenger pigeons once numbered in the billions. They darkened the sky for hours during migration. The Great Wall of China is not visible from space with the naked eye. This is a common misconception. The wall is too narrow to be seen from orbit. Astronauts have confirmed that it is barely visible, even with magnification. The first electric traffic light was installed in London in 1868. It was a gaslit signal with red and green arms. It exploded shortly after installation, injuring the police officer operating it. The technology was abandoned for decades. The first intercontinental phone call was made in 1915. The call was between New York and San Francisco. The connection took several minutes to establish. The voice was faint, but it was the first time two coasts were connected by sound. The first modern parachute jump was made in 1797. André-Jacques Garnfreund jumped from a hot air balloon over Paris. His parachute had no rigid frame. It was just silk cloth. He landed safely, though the basket swung violently. The first vaccination was administered in 1796. Edward Jenner used cowpox material to protect a boy from smallpox. The boy never contracted smallpox. The word vaccination comes from the Latin vacca, meaning cow. The first powered flight lasted 12 seconds. The Wright brothers flew their plane at Kitty Hawk in 1903. The distance covered was about 120 feet. It was shorter than the wingspan of a modern jumbo jet. The first successful heart transplant was performed in 1967. The surgeon was Christian Barnard in Cape Town. The patient lived for 18 days after the surgery. The transplant was a milestone, but the patient died of pneumonia. The first artificial satellite was Sputnik 1, launched in 1957. It was the size of a beach ball and weighed about 85 kilograms. It transmitted a simple radio signal for 3 weeks. The signal was heard around the world. The first man-made object to reach the moon was Luna 2 in 1959. It was a Soviet probe that crashed into the lunar surface. The impact was deliberate. The probe scattered Soviet pennants on the moon. The first successful Mars landing was Viking 1 in 1976. The probe landed on the surface and sent back images. The images showed a rocky, reddish landscape. The surface was colder and drier than any place on Earth. The first cross-Atlantic flight was made in 1919. The pilots were John Alcock and Arthur Brown. They flew from Newfoundland to Ireland in a modified Vickers Vimy bomber. The flight took 16 hours. They landed in a bog. The first woman in space was Valentina Tereshkova in 1963. She orbited Earth 48 times. She was a textile worker before becoming a cosmonaut. She remains the only woman to have flown a solo space mission. The first person to walk in space was Alexei Leonov in 1965. He spent 12 minutes outside his spacecraft. His suit inflated in the vacuum, making it difficult to return. He had to release pressure to fit back through the hatch. The first space station was Salyut 1, launched in 1971. It was designed for long-term habitation. The first crew stayed for 23 days. They returned safely, but the station was abandoned. The first reusable spacecraft was the Space Shuttle, launched in 1981. Columbia was the first shuttle to fly. The shuttle system carried astronauts and cargo into orbit. It was used for 30 years before being retired. The first photograph of the far side of the moon was taken in 1959. The image was transmitted back to Earth by the Soviet probe Luna 3. The far side was rocky and mountainous, with fewer Maria than the near side. It was the first time anyone had seen that face of the moon. The first confirmed earthquake was recorded in 102 AD. The device was a seismoscope invented by Zhang Heng in China. It was a bronze vessel with dragon heads that dropped balls into frog mouths. The first drop indicated the direction of the tremor. The first successful blood transfusion was performed in 1667. The blood came from a sheep and was given to a 15-year-old boy. The boy survived, though the practice was later banned. The donor and recipient were not matched by blood type because blood types were unknown. The first known map was a Babylonian clay tablet from around 600 BC. It showed the world as a flat disk surrounded by water. The map was centered on Babylon. The world was smaller than we imagined, but it was the first attempt to draw it. The first known compass was invented in China during the Han Dynasty. It was a simple lodestone spoon that pointed south. The spoon was used for divination, not navigation. The magnetic compass was later adapted for travel. The first chemical elements known to humans were gold, silver, copper, iron, and tin. They were discovered in ancient times, and their symbols are based on their Latin names. Gold is Au from aurum. Silver is Ag, from argentum. The symbols have survived for millennia. The first practical thermometer was invented by Daniel Fahrenheit in 1714. It used mercury and had a scale of 80 degrees. The scale was later adjusted to 100 degrees for boiling water. The Fahrenheit scale is still used in a few countries. The first accurate atomic clock was developed in 1955. It used cesium atoms to measure time with extreme precision. The clock lost about 1 second every 300 years. Modern atomic clocks are even more accurate. The first time zone was established in Britain in 1847. The railway companies needed a standard time to coordinate schedules. Greenwich Mean Time was adopted as the standard. The world was divided into time zones soon after. The first millennium ended on December 31st, 1000. But the new millennium was not celebrated widely. Most people were more concerned with survival than with calendar transitions. The celebration came later, at the end of the second millennium. People cheered for a moment that was technically 1 year late. We have moved through time, its dates, its records, its numbered moments. Now we turn to the living world, to the animals that share this planet with you, to the creatures that are almost interesting but not quite, to the ones that drift through the dark, unaware that you are listening. We begin with the names we give to groups. A group of flamingos is called a flamboyance. The name fits their color, their posture, their gathered stillness. A group of crows is called a murder, a name that suggests darkness. The names are arbitrary, but they stick. They describe something about the animals without describing anything essential. The horn of a rhinoceros is made of keratin. That is the same protein as human hair and fingernails. It is not bone, and it is not attached to the skull. The horn grows from the skin like a hair. It can be filed down without harming the animal. An octopus has 3 hearts. 2 pump blood through the gills, and 1 pumps it through the body. The systemic heart stops beating when the octopus swims. That is why octopuses prefer to crawl. Swimming is exhausting for their circulatory system. The largest known dinosaur was Argentinosaurus. It weighed up to 100 tons. That is the weight of about 15 elephants. The smallest dinosaur was about the size of a chicken. The range is enormous, but both are extinct now. The honeybee has 2 pairs of wings. They hook together in flight, forming a single surface. When the bee is at rest, the wings unhook. The hooking mechanism is simple but effective. It allows the bee to fly without extra effort. The deepest point in the ocean is the Challenger Deep. It is 10,994 meters deep. That is deeper than Mount Everest is high. The pressure at the bottom is over 1,000 times atmospheric pressure. Few creatures survive there. The Great Red Spot on Jupiter is a storm. It has been raging for at least 400 years. The storm is larger than Earth. It spins counterclockwise and reaches temperatures of about -145 degrees Celsius. The spot is quiet but persistent. Venus is the hottest planet in our solar system. Its average temperature is 462 degrees Celsius. That is hotter than Mercury, which is closer to the Sun. Venus is wrapped in a thick carbon dioxide atmosphere. The gas traps heat in a runaway greenhouse effect. The Earth's rotation is slowing down. It adds about 1.7 milliseconds to a century. That means every 100 years, a day is slightly longer than before. The Moon is responsible. It pulls on the Earth's oceans, creating friction. The word planet comes from the Greek word for wanderer. Ancient observers noticed that planets moved against the fixed stars. The wandering objects were distinct from the ones that stayed still. The name is a description of motion. The first successful selfie in space was taken by Buzz Aldrin in 1966. He was on the Gemini 12 mission. The photograph showed his face reflected in the visor of his helmet. The image was not planned. It was a casual moment in orbit. The Andromeda Galaxy is the closest large galaxy to the Milky Way. It is on a collision course with us. The collision will happen in about 4 billion years. The galaxies will merge into a single, larger galaxy. The event is slow and quiet. A group of jellyfish is called a smack. The name suggests a sudden impact, but jellyfish move slowly. They pulse through the water with simple, rhythmic contractions. A smack of jellyfish drifts together without intention. A group of owls is called a parliament. The name suggests deliberation and wisdom. Owls hunt at night, and they hunt alone. The parliament is a collection of solitary hunters. A group of ferrets is called a business. Ferrets are curious and active. The business suggests busyness and movement. A group of them is more active than a single ferret. A group of penguins in the water is called a raft. On land, the same group is called a waddle. The name changes depending on where they are. They are the same birds, but their motion is different. The slow loris is the only venomous primate. Its toxin is delivered through a gland on its elbows. The loris licks the gland and then bites. The venom causes severe pain and swelling. It is not fast enough to chase, but it does not need to. The platypus is one of the few venomous mammals. The male has a spur on its hind leg that delivers a painful toxin. The toxin is not lethal to humans, but it causes severe swelling. The platypus is a mammal that lays eggs and produces venom. The starfish has no brain and no blood. Its nervous system is distributed through its arms. It pumps seawater through its body instead of blood. The starfish is simple, but it can regenerate lost arms. The sea cucumber can expel its internal organs as a defense mechanism. The organs are sticky and confuse predators. The sea cucumber regenerates them within weeks. The organ loss is temporary, but it is thorough. The ant has the largest brain relative to its body size. The brain is about 1/6 of the ant's total mass. Ants communicate through chemical signals. The brain is small but dense. The giraffe has the same number of neck vertebrae as a human. Both have 7. The giraffe's vertebrae are just much longer. Each bone is about 10 inches in length. The neck is built on the same blueprint. The flamingo eats upside down. Its beak is adapted to filter food from the water. The head is inverted, and the tongue pumps water through the filter. The food is collected while the bird stands on one leg. The kangaroo cannot walk backward. Its tail and feet prevent backward movement. The kangaroo hops forward and can hop in place, but it cannot reverse direction. The dung beetle navigates by the Milky Way. It uses the light of the galaxy to find its way. The beetle rolls its ball in a straight line. It is the only insect known to use the Milky Way for navigation. The sloth takes about 2 weeks to digest a single meal. Its metabolism is one of the slowest in the animal kingdom. The sloth eats leaves, and leaves are slow to break down. The digestion reflects the animal's pace. The seal can hold its breath for up to 2 hours. This is one of the longest dive times of any mammal. The seal stores oxygen in its muscles and blood. It conserves energy by lowering its heart rate. The whale's heart is the size of a small car. It weighs about 400 kilograms. The heart beats about 10 times per minute. It pumps blood through the largest circulatory system in the animal kingdom. The camel's hump stores fat, not water. The fat provides energy during long periods without food. The water is stored in the camel's bloodstream. The hump is a fuel tank, not a water tank. The chameleon's tongue is about twice the length of its body. The tongue is launched with a spring mechanism. It wraps around prey and retracts quickly. The movement happens in less than a second. The hummingbird is the only bird that can fly backward. Its wings rotate in a figure-8 pattern. The motion allows for hovering and reversing. The hummingbird is unique in its maneuverability. The armadillo rolls into a ball for defense. Only the 3-banded armadillo can do this completely. The shell is made of bone plates covered in horn. The armadillo is safe inside its shell. The narwhal has a tusk that is actually a tooth. The tooth grows through the upper lip and can reach 3 meters. It is found almost exclusively in males. The tooth is not used for fighting. It may be used for sensing changes in the water. The seahorse is one of the few animals where the male gives birth. The male carries the eggs in a pouch until they hatch. The female deposits the eggs, and the male fertilizes them. The male is responsible for the young. The tardigrade can survive in space. It is a microscopic animal that tolerates extreme conditions. It can withstand radiation, dehydration, and vacuum. The tardigrade is one of the toughest creatures on Earth. The gecko can climb smooth surfaces using van der Waals forces. Its feet are covered in microscopic hairs that create molecular attraction. The gecko does not use glue or suction. It uses physics to stick to surfaces. The firefly produces light through a chemical reaction called bioluminescence. The light is cold. It does not produce heat. The firefly uses it to attract mates and warn predators. The light is produced in its abdomen. The pangolin is the only mammal covered in scales. The scales are made of keratin, like a rhinoceros horn. The pangolin rolls into a ball when threatened. It is the most trafficked mammal in the world. The octopus has about 500 million neurons. That is more than a dog. The neurons are distributed throughout its arms. The arms can act independently of the brain. The octopus is intelligent, but its intelligence is decentralized. There is a term for the study of animal behavior, ethology. It looks at how animals move, communicate, and survive. Each behavior has a purpose, even if we do not understand it. The animal world moves in ways we are still learning. We have wandered through the animal world, its names, its hearts, its hidden behaviors. Now we turn to the sky, to the space above us, to the planets that drift silently, the stars that burn without sound, the numbers that measure distance and time. Space is vast and quiet. We begin with the closest star. The Sun is about 150 million kilometers from Earth. That distance is called 1 astronomical unit. It takes light about 8 minutes and 20 seconds to travel from the Sun to us. The light you see left the Sun 8 minutes ago. You are looking into the past. The Sun is a middle-aged star. It is about 4.6 billion years old. It has enough fuel to burn for another 5 billion years. The Sun is not extraordinary. It is an average star in an average galaxy. But it is the only one we depend on. The surface temperature of the Sun is about 5,500 degrees Celsius. The core is much hotter, about 15 million degrees. The heat is generated by nuclear fusion. Hydrogen atoms combine to form helium, releasing energy. The process is steady and quiet. The Sun's diameter is about 1,400,000 kilometers. That is about 109 times the diameter of Earth. You could fit about 1.3 million Earths inside the Sun. The Sun is large, but it is not the largest star. The largest known star is UY Scuti. It is about 1,700 times the size of the Sun. If UY Scuti were placed at the center of our solar system, it would extend beyond the orbit of Jupiter. The star is so large that it barely holds itself together. The smallest known star is about the size of Saturn. It is a red dwarf called Eblum J055557AB. Its radius is about 59,000 kilometers. It is just barely large enough to sustain nuclear fusion. It is the smallest possible star. The closest star to Earth after the Sun is Proxima Centauri. It is about 4.2 light-years away. That distance is about 40 trillion kilometers. Traveling at the speed of the fastest spacecraft, it would take over 6,000 years to reach it. The speed of light is about 300,000 kilometers per second. That is the fastest speed in the universe. Nothing with mass can travel at that speed. Light travels without resistance, crossing the void at a constant rate. The Andromeda Galaxy is the closest large galaxy to us. It is about 2.5 million light-years away. It contains about 1 trillion stars. It is moving toward us at about 110 kilometers per second. The collision with our galaxy is billions of years away. The Milky Way contains about 100 billion stars. That number is almost impossible to comprehend. There are more stars in the galaxy than there are people on Earth. Each star is a sun, and many have planets. The first exoplanet was discovered in 1992. It orbits a pulsar, a dead star. Since then, thousands of exoplanets have been found. Many are larger than Earth, some are smaller. The variety is vast, and more are discovered each year. The Great Red Spot on Jupiter is a storm larger than Earth. It has been observed since the 1600s. The storm rotates counterclockwise and reaches speeds of about 430 kilometers per hour. It is slowly shrinking but remains visible from Earth. Jupiter has 79 known moons. The largest is Ganymede, which is larger than Mercury. Ganymede is the only moon with its own magnetic field. Jupiter's system is like a miniature solar system. Saturn has 83 known moons. Its largest moon, Titan, has a thick atmosphere and liquid methane lakes. The surface of Titan is hidden by orange haze. The moon is one of the most Earth-like places in the solar system. Saturn's rings are made of ice and rock particles. They range in size from dust grains to mountains. The rings are thin, only about 10 meters thick in some places. They are held in place by Saturn's gravity and the orbits of its moons. Uranus rotates on its side. Its axis is tilted about 98 degrees. The cause may have been a massive collision billions of years ago. The tilt makes Uranus appear to roll around the Sun. Neptune has the fastest winds in the solar system. They reach speeds of over 2,000 kilometers per hour. The winds are driven by the planet's internal heat. Neptune is cold, but the winds are violent. Pluto is no longer classified as a planet. It was reclassified as a dwarf planet in 2006. Pluto orbits the Sun in a region called the Kuiper Belt. There are other dwarf planets in the same region. Pluto is not alone. The Kuiper Belt is a region beyond Neptune. It contains thousands of icy bodies. The belt extends from about 30 to 50 astronomical units from the Sun. Pluto is the largest known object in the belt. The Oort cloud is a sphere of icy bodies surrounding the solar system. It lies at a distance of about 50,000 astronomical units. The Oort cloud is the source of long-period comets. It is mostly unobserved. The first asteroid was discovered in 1801. It was named Ceres, and later reclassified as a dwarf planet. There are now over 1 million known asteroids. Most are in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. The first comet with a recorded return was Halley's Comet. It returns every 75 to 76 years. It was observed in 1066 and depicted in the Bayeux Tapestry. The comet is named after Edmond Halley, who predicted its return. The first meteorite known to have killed a person was the Peekskill meteorite. It hit a car in New York in 1992. The car was not moving. No one was injured, but the car was destroyed. The first confirmed impact crater on Earth is the Barringer crater in Arizona. It is about 1.2 kilometers in diameter. The crater was formed about 50,000 years ago by a meteorite. The impact was powerful enough to flatten everything nearby. The first space telescope was launched in 1968. It was the Orbiting Astronomical Observatory, known as OAO2. It observed ultraviolet light from stars. The telescope operated for 4 years. It was a prelude to the Hubble. The Hubble Space Telescope was launched in 1990. It has observed some of the most distant galaxies in the universe. The Hubble Deep Field captured images of thousands of galaxies in a patch of sky the size of a pinhead. Each galaxy contains billions of stars. The James Webb Space Telescope was launched in 2021. It observes in infrared, detecting heat from distant objects. Webb is designed to study the early universe. It can see objects that Hubble cannot. The images are sharp and deep. The first space station was Salyut 1, launched in 1971. It was designed for long-term human habitation. The station was uncrewed most of the time. The Mir space station followed, lasting for 15 years. The International Space Station orbits about 400 kilometers above Earth. It travels at about 28,000 kilometers per hour. It orbits Earth every 90 minutes. The crew experiences 16 sunrises and sunsets each day. The first person to orbit Earth was Yuri Gagarin in 1961. His flight lasted 108 minutes. He orbited once and returned safely. Gagarin became the first human in space. The first person to walk on the moon was Neil Armstrong in 1969. His footprint remains on the lunar surface. The moon has no atmosphere, so there is no wind to erase it. The footprint will stay for millions of years. The moon is about 384,000 kilometers from Earth. It is the closest celestial body to us. The moon is slowly moving away at about 3.8 centimeters per year. The separation is slow but steady. There is no sound in space. Sound travels through air, and space is a vacuum. The absence of sound makes space deeply quiet. The silence is absolute. There is a term for the study of space: astronomy. It is one of the oldest sciences. Astronomers have been observing the sky for thousands of years. They still look up, searching for answers in the dark. We have looked upward, at the stars, the planets, the silent distances between them. Now we turn to the ground beneath you, to the plants that grow without notice, the weather that passes without comment, the earth that holds everything together. The natural world is steady and slow. We begin with the tallest living thing. The tallest tree in the world is a coast redwood named Hyperion. It stands 115.9 meters tall. That is about the height of a 35-story building. The tree is located in a remote part of California. Its exact location is kept secret to protect it. The oldest living tree is a bristlecone pine named Methuselah. It is over 4,800 years old. It grows in the White Mountains of California. The tree was already old when the pyramids were built. It continues to grow slowly each year. The largest living organism on Earth is a fungus. It is a honey fungus in Oregon that covers about 10 square kilometers. The fungus is mostly underground. The visible mushrooms are just the fruiting bodies. The organism is ancient and massive. The fastest growing plant is bamboo. Some species can grow up to 90 centimeters in a single day. The growth is so fast that you can hear it creaking. Bamboo reaches full height in a few months. It is a grass, not a tree. The oldest known seed to germinate was a date palm seed. It was found in an archaeological site in Israel. The seed was about 2,000 years old. It was planted and grew into a living tree. The tree was named Methuselah after the biblical figure. The largest flower in the world is the rafflesia. It can grow up to 1 meter in diameter. The flower has no stem, no leaves, and no roots. It is a parasite that lives inside a host vine. The flower smells like rotting meat. The smallest flower in the world belongs to the watermeal plant. It is about the size of a grain of salt. The plant floats on the surface of ponds. It produces a flower that is barely visible to the naked eye. The flower is simple but complete. The fastest moving plant is the touch-me-not, also known as Mimosa pudica. Its leaves fold inward when touched. The movement is triggered by changes in water pressure. The plant reacts in about 1 second. The folding is a defense mechanism. The heaviest plant in the world is the giant sequoia. The largest specimen is named General Sherman. It weighs about 2,000 metric tons. That is about the weight of 15 blue whales. The tree is over 80 meters tall. The most common plant in the world is the grass species Poa annua. It is found on every continent except Antarctica. The grass grows in disturbed soil and spreads easily. It is not native to any specific region. It has adapted to human activity. The first cultivated plant was wheat. It was domesticated about 10,000 years ago in the Fertile Crescent. Wheat was the first staple crop. It allowed humans to settle in one place. Agriculture changed the course of human history. The first crop to be genetically modified was the tomato. The modification was for longer shelf life. The flavor sour tomato was introduced in 1994. It was designed to ripen more slowly. The tomato was not commercially successful. The first plant to be grown in space was Arabidopsis. It was grown on the Soviet space station Salyut 7 in 1982. The plant completed its life cycle in space. It produced seeds in microgravity. The experiment showed that plants could grow off Earth. The first plant to be sequenced was Arabidopsis in 2000. It was the first plant genome fully mapped. The genome is small and simple. It is used as a model for other plants. The sequencing took years to complete. The first botanical garden was established in Pisa in 1544. It was the first university garden. The garden was used for teaching and research. It contained plants from around the Mediterranean. The garden is still active today. The first herbarium was created in the 1500s. It was a collection of pressed plants. The plants were mounted on paper and labeled. The herbarium allowed plants to be studied without growing them. It is still a standard practice. The first plant classification system was created by Carl Linnaeus in 1753. He organized plants by their sexual organs. The system is still used today. Linnaeus also introduced binomial nomenclature. He gave each plant a two-part Latin name. The first fossilized plant is about 450 million years old. It was a simple moss-like plant. The fossils show the earliest evidence of land plants. Plants moved from water to land during this period. The move was a major evolutionary step. The first tree evolved about 390 million years ago. It was called Archaeopteris. The tree looked like a modern conifer. It had both wood and leaves. It spread across ancient continents. The first flower evolved about 140 million years ago. The first flowers were small and simple. They were pollinated by insects. The relationship between flowers and insects is ancient. The first grass evolved about 60 million years ago. Grasses spread after the dinosaurs went extinct. They covered open plains and fed grazing animals. Grassland ecosystems are relatively recent in Earth's history. The first wildfire was likely caused by lightning. The oldest evidence dates to about 420 million years ago. Wildfires are a natural part of many ecosystems. Some plants depend on fire to regenerate. The first ice ages occurred about 2.4 billion years ago. The Earth was frozen from pole to pole. The glaciation was caused by changes in the atmosphere. The Ice Age lasted for hundreds of millions of years. The first snowflake photographed was in 1885. The photographer was Wilson Bentley. He captured over 5,000 images of snowflakes. His photographs are still studied. Each snowflake is different. The first rainbow was described by Aristotle in about 350 BC. He explained it as a reflection of the sun in clouds. His explanation was incorrect, but it started the inquiry. The science of rainbows was later developed by Newton. The first tornado on record was in 1647. It struck the town of Taranto in Italy. The destruction was severe. Tornadoes were not well understood at the time. The study of tornadoes is relatively recent. The first hurricane named was in 1953. The U.S. Weather Bureau began naming storms to avoid confusion. Names were originally female. Male names were added in 1979. The naming system is used worldwide. The first wind speed measurement was made in 1667. The device was a simple anemometer. It used a plate that moved with the wind. The measurement was not accurate, but it was a start. The first rainfall measurement was made in India in 1700s. The measurement used a simple bucket. The data was recorded daily. The records are still used for climate studies. The first temperature record was kept in the 1600s. The thermometer was invented by Galileo. The scale was not standardized. The records were inconsistent but useful. The first climate map was created in 1817 by Alexander von Humboldt. He plotted temperature and pressure on a world map. He connected climate to altitude and latitude. His map was the first global climate synthesis. The first weather satellite was launched in 1960. It was called TIROS-1. The satellite transmitted images of cloud cover. The images were rough but revolutionary. They gave the first view of weather from above. The first ozone layer depletion was reported in 1985. The hole was over Antarctica. The depletion was caused by chlorofluorocarbons. The discovery led to international agreements. The ozone hole is slowly recovering. There is a term for the study of plants, botany. It covers everything from algae to trees. There is a term for the study of weather, meteorology. It covers the atmosphere and its changes. The earth keeps turning, the rain keeps falling, and the trees keep growing. We have walked through the natural world, its trees, its weather, its slow rhythms. Now we turn to the things we have made for play, to the games we play, the sports we watch, the rules we follow without question. Competition is ancient, but the details are often forgotten. We begin with the oldest known game. The oldest known board game is Senet. It was played in ancient Egypt around 3100 BC. The board had 30 squares arranged in 3 rows. The game was played with sticks or dice. It was a game of chance and strategy. The oldest known dice were found in Iran. They date to about 2800 BC. The dice were made of bone and had markings. They were used for divination and gambling. The dice were not standardized but were functional. The oldest known playing cards are from China. They date to the 9th century AD. The cards were likely used for a game called Leaf. The cards were not paper but were made of wood. The design was simple. The oldest known ball is from ancient Egypt. It dates to about 2000 BC. The ball was made of leather and stuffed with straw. It was used in a game similar to handball. The ball was found in a tomb. The oldest known sports stadium is in Greece. It is the stadium at Olympia. It was built in the 8th century BC. The track was about 190 meters long. It hosted the ancient Olympic Games. The first modern Olympic Games were held in Athens in 1896. There were 241 athletes from 14 countries. The Games included 9 sports. The winner received a silver medal and an olive branch. The first Winter Olympics were held in 1924 in Chamonix, France. There were 16 events. The Games included skiing, skating, and hockey. The Winter Olympics are now held every 4 years. The first Paralympic Games were held in 1960 in Rome. There were 400 athletes from 23 countries. The Games were for athletes with disabilities. The Paralympics are now held alongside the Olympics. The first World Cup was held in 1930 in Uruguay. The host nation won. The tournament had 13 teams. The final match was between Uruguay and Argentina. Uruguay won 4-2. The first Super Bowl was played in 1967. It was between the Green Bay Packers and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Packers won 35-10. The game was not called the Super Bowl at first. The name came later. The first baseball game with modern rules was played in 1846. The game was between the New York Knickerbockers and the New York Nine. The Knickerbockers lost. The rules were written by Alexander Cartwright. The first basketball game was played in 1891. The game was played with a soccer ball and peach baskets. The baskets were nailed to the balcony. The first game had 9 players per side. The game was invented by James Naismith. The first hockey game with modern rules was played in 1875. The game was in Montreal. The puck was a square block of wood. The game was played indoors for the first time. The first tennis match was played in 1877 at Wimbledon. The tournament was for amateur players. The final was played in front of a small crowd. The winner received a silver cup. The first golf course was in Scotland. It was the old course at St. Andrews. The course was used in the 15th century. The number of holes was originally 22. It was later reduced to 18. The first race car was built in 1885. It was called the Benz Patent Motorwagen. The car was powered by an internal combustion engine. It reached a top speed of 16 kilometers per hour. The first Formula One race was held in 1950 at Silverstone. The race was won by Giuseppe Farina. The season had 7 races. Formula One became the highest level of motorsport. The first bicycle race was in 1868 in Paris. The race was over 120 kilometers. The winner was a British rider. The race was held on the streets of Paris. The first marathon was in 490 BC. It was the run from Marathon to Athens. The runner was Pheidippides. He announced the victory and then died. The modern marathon was inspired by this legend. The first modern marathon was in the 1896 Olympics. The distance was about 40 kilometers. The distance was later standardized to 42.195 kilometers. The distance was set for the 1908 London Olympics. The first triathlon was in 1974 in San Diego. The event included a run, a swim, and a bike ride. The distance was short. The modern Ironman triathlon is much longer. The first Ironman was in 1978 in Hawaii. The race included a swim, a bike ride, and a marathon. The race was designed to test endurance. The first winner was Gordon Haller. The first skateboard was invented in the 1950s. It was a wooden board with roller skate wheels. The design was simple. The skateboard was used for surfing on land. The first snowboard was invented in 1965. It was called the Snurfer. The Snurfer was a toy for children. The modern snowboard was developed later. The first video game was invented in 1958. It was called Tennis for Two. The game was played on an oscilloscope. The game was simple but engaging. The first commercial video game was Pong in 1972. The game was based on table tennis. The game was simple and popular. It launched the video game industry. The first handheld game was the Mattel Auto Race in 1976. The game used LED lights to simulate a race. The game was simple. The handheld market grew quickly. The first arcade game was Computer Space in 1971. The game was based on space combat. The game was not very popular. It was followed by Pong. The first chess computer was developed in the 1950s. The computer could play against humans. The first computer to beat a human was Deep Blue in 1997. Deep Blue defeated Garry Kasparov. The first crossword puzzle was published in 1913. It was in the New York World newspaper. The puzzle was diamond-shaped. The creator was Arthur Wynne. The first jigsaw puzzle was created in 1767. It was a map of Europe. The puzzle was cut with a jigsaw. It was used for education. The first Rubik's Cube was invented in 1974. It was called the Magic Cube. The cube was used to teach geometry. The puzzle became a global phenomenon. The first Monopoly game was created in 1903. It was called the Landlord's Game. The game was designed to teach economics. The modern Monopoly was later commercialized. The first Scrabble game was invented in 1938. It was called Lexico. The game was designed by Alfred Butts. The game was later renamed Scrabble. The first Dungeons & Dragons game was published in 1974. It was the first role-playing game. The game used dice and imagination. The game launched a new genre. The first game theory was developed in the 1940s. It was used to study economic competition. The theory was later applied to games. The theory is still used today. There is a term for the study of games, ludology. It looks at how games work and why we play them. Games are structured activities with rules and goals. They have been with us for a very long time. We have played through games and sports, their rules, their origins, their quiet histories. Now we turn to the marks we make, to the laws we write, the money we spend, the names we carry. These are human inventions, arbitrary and specific. They shape how we live without us noticing. We begin with the oldest known law. The oldest known written law is the Code of Ur-Nammu. It dates to about 2100 BC. It was written in Sumeria. The code listed punishments for specific offenses. It was designed to establish justice. The first known written constitution was the Constitution of Medina. It was written in 622 AD. It established rights and responsibilities. It was created to govern a multi-religious community. The oldest surviving legal code is the Code of Hammurabi. It dates to about 1754 BC. The code had 282 laws. It was written on a stone stele. The laws covered trade, family, and crime. The first known jury system was in ancient Greece. The jury was composed of citizens. The jury decided the verdict. The system was democratic. It is still used today. The first known prison was in ancient Mesopotamia. The prison was used to hold debtors. The prison was not a place of punishment, it was a place of confinement. The first known trial by ordeal was in ancient India. The ordeal involved fire or water. The accused had to pass a test. The test was believed to reveal the truth. The first known contract was in ancient Egypt. It was a loan agreement. The contract specified terms and interest. The contract was written on papyrus. The first known copyright law was in 1710. It was called the Statute of Anne. The law gave authors rights to their work. The law was passed in England. The first known patent law was in 1474. It was passed in Venice. The law protected inventors for a limited time. The law encouraged innovation. The first known trademark law was in 1266. It was passed in England. The law required bakers to mark their bread. The mark identified the baker. The first known currency was in ancient Lydia. It was made of electrum, a gold-silver alloy. The coins were stamped with a design. The design indicated the issuing authority. The first known paper money was in China. It was used during the Tang dynasty. The paper money was backed by gold. It was easier to carry than coins. The first known checks were used in ancient Rome. The checks were orders to pay. They were used by merchants. The checks reduced the need for cash. The first known bank was in ancient Babylon. The bank made loans and took deposits. The bank was regulated by the state. The bank operated like a modern bank. The first known insurance was in ancient Greece. The insurance covered shipping losses. The insurance was mutual. The members shared the risk. The first known stock market was in Amsterdam. It was established in 1602. The market traded shares of the Dutch East India Company. The market was the first modern stock exchange. The first known bond was in ancient Rome. The bond was a debt instrument. The bond paid interest. The bond was used by the state. The first known tax was in ancient Egypt. The tax was on grain. The tax was collected by the state. The tax was used to support the pharaoh. The first known census was in ancient Rome. The census counted citizens. The census was used for taxation. The census was conducted regularly. The first known passport was in ancient Persia. The passport was a letter of introduction. The letter was issued by the king. It allowed travel through the empire. The first known identity card was in ancient China. The card was made of wood. The card identified the bearer. The card was used for travel. The first known signature was in ancient Sumeria. The signature was a seal. The seal was pressed into clay. The seal identified the signer. The first known fingerprinting was in ancient Babylon. The fingerprints were used on clay tablets. The prints identified the individual. The practice was later refined. The first known postal service was in ancient Egypt. The service used runners. The runners carried messages. The service was for the state. The first known stamps were in ancient Rome. The stamps marked bricks and pottery. The stamp identified the maker. The stamp was a form of branding. The first known road signs were in ancient Rome. The signs indicated distances. The signs were made of stone. The signs helped travelers. The first known traffic laws were in ancient Rome. The laws restricted chariot traffic. The laws were designed to reduce congestion. The laws were enforced by guards. The first known building codes were in ancient Babylon. The codes regulated construction. The codes specified materials and methods. The codes were designed to ensure safety. The first known zoning laws were in ancient Rome. The laws separated residential and commercial areas. The laws reduced noise and traffic. The laws improved quality of life. The first known environmental law was in ancient India. The law protected forests and animals. The law was in the Arthashastra. The law was ahead of its time. The first known human rights declaration was in 539 BC. It was the Cyrus Cylinder. It declared freedom of religion. It also abolished slavery. The declaration was progressive. The first known peace treaty was in 1258 BC. It was between Egypt and the Hittites. The treaty ended the war. The treaty included a mutual defense clause. The first known extradition agreement was in 1280 BC. It was between Egypt and the Hittites. The agreement returned fugitives. The agreement was reciprocal. The first known asylum was in ancient Greece. Asylum was granted in temples. The temples were considered sacred. The asylum was temporary. The first known census in the United States was in 1790. The census counted the population. The total was about 4 million. The census is held every 10 years. The first known income tax was in the United Kingdom. It was introduced in 1799. The tax was temporary. It was used to fund the war. The first known minimum wage law was in New Zealand. It was passed in 1894. The law set a minimum wage for workers. The law was later adopted elsewhere. The first known child labor law was in the United Kingdom. It was passed in 1833. The law limited working hours. The law required education for children. There is a term for the study of law: jurisprudence. It looks at the philosophy and structure of legal systems. There is a term for the study of money: numismatics. It covers coins, currency, and their history. The laws and the money, the names and the numbers, they are all just structures we have built, and they will outlast us, as they have outlasted those who came before. We have traced the marks we make: laws, money, names, the structures we build. Now we turn to the food we eat, the drinks we consume, the flavors we take for granted. Each dish has a story, each ingredient a path to your plate. These are the quiet origins of what sustains us. We begin with the oldest known food. The oldest known cooked food is bread. It was baked about 14,000 years ago. The bread was made from wild grains. It was flat and unleavened. Bread predates agriculture. The oldest known soup dates to about 20,000 years ago. It was found in a cave in China. The soup was made from animal bones. The bones were boiled to extract fat and flavor. The oldest known beer dates to about 5,000 years ago. It was brewed in Mesopotamia. The beer was made from barley. It was thick and cloudy. Beer was a staple of the diet. The oldest known wine dates to about 8,000 years ago. It was found in Georgia. The wine was made from grapes. The wine was stored in clay vessels. It was likely used for ceremonies. The oldest known cheese dates to about 7,000 years ago. It was found in Poland. The cheese was made from cow's milk. The cheese was likely soft. It was made in ceramic strainers. The oldest known olive oil dates to about 8,000 years ago. It was found in Israel. The oil was made from olives. The oil was used for cooking and lighting. It was a valuable commodity. The oldest known honey dates to about 5,000 years ago. It was found in Georgia. The honey was preserved in a clay vessel. The honey was still edible. Honey does not spoil. The oldest known pasta dates to about 4,000 years ago. It was found in China. The pasta was made from millet. The pasta was thin and long. It was preserved in a bowl. The oldest known rice dates to about 10,000 years ago. It was found in China. The rice was domesticated from wild grass. Rice became a staple in Asia. It spread to the rest of the world. The oldest known maize dates to about 9,000 years ago. It was found in Mexico. Maize was domesticated from a wild grass. It became a staple in the Americas. Maize is now grown worldwide. The oldest known wheat dates to about 10,000 years ago. It was found in the Fertile Crescent. Wheat was domesticated from wild grasses. It became a staple in the Middle East. Wheat is now the most widely grown grain. The oldest known potatoes date to about 8,000 years ago. They were found in Peru. Potatoes were domesticated from wild tubers. They became a staple in the Andes. Potatoes are now grown worldwide. The oldest known tomatoes date to about 2,000 years ago. They were found in Mexico. Tomatoes were domesticated by the Aztecs. They were originally small and yellow. They spread to Europe after colonization. The oldest known chocolate dates to about 3,000 years ago. It was found in Central America. Chocolate was made from cacao beans. It was consumed as a bitter drink. Sugar was added later. The oldest known tea dates to about 3,000 years ago. It was found in China. Tea was used as a medicinal drink. It was consumed as a bitter brew. Tea became a daily beverage. The oldest known coffee dates to about 1,000 years ago. It was found in Ethiopia. Coffee was used as a stimulant. It spread to the Arabian Peninsula. Coffee became a global commodity. The oldest known sugar dates to about 2,000 years ago. It was found in India. Sugar was made from sugarcane. It was initially a luxury. Sugar became more common over time. The oldest known salt dates to about 8,000 years ago. It was found in Romania. Salt was used to preserve food. It was also used as a seasoning. Salt was a valuable trade good. The oldest known pepper dates to about 4,000 years ago. It was found in India. Pepper was used as a spice. It was traded widely. Pepper was expensive and valued. The oldest known cinnamon dates to about 4,000 years ago. It was found in Sri Lanka. Cinnamon was used as a spice. It was also used for embalming. Cinnamon was traded along ancient routes. The oldest known vanilla dates to about 1,000 years ago. It was found in Mexico. Vanilla was used by the Totonac people. It was used for flavoring. Vanilla was later adopted by the Aztecs. The oldest known nutmeg dates to about 1,000 years ago. It was found in Indonesia. Nutmeg was used as a spice. It was also used for medicine. Nutmeg was highly valued. The oldest known cloves date to about 2,000 years ago. They were found in Indonesia. Cloves were used as a spice. They were also used for flavoring. Cloves were traded extensively. The oldest known ginger dates to about 5,000 years ago. It was found in Southeast Asia. Ginger was used as a spice. It was also used for medicine. Ginger spread to the rest of the world. The oldest known garlic dates to about 5,000 years ago. It was found in Central Asia. Garlic was used for flavoring. It was also used for medicine. Garlic was valued for its properties. The oldest known onions date to about 5,000 years ago. They were found in Central Asia. Onions were used for cooking. They were also used for medicine. Onions were a staple. The oldest known carrots date to about 3,000 years ago. They were found in Afghanistan. Carrots were originally purple. They were later bred to be orange. Carrots were used for food and medicine. The oldest known cabbage dates to about 3,000 years ago. It was found in Europe. Cabbage was used for food. It was also used for medicine. Cabbage was a staple. The oldest known broccoli dates to about 2,000 years ago. It was found in Italy. Broccoli was bred from wild cabbage. It was used for food. Broccoli was valued for its taste. The oldest known apples date to about 4,000 years ago. They were found in Central Asia. Apples were used for food. They were also used for cider. Apples spread along trade routes. The oldest known oranges date to about 4,000 years ago. They were found in Southeast Asia. Oranges were used for food. They were also used for medicine. Oranges spread to the Middle East. The oldest known lemons date to about 2,000 years ago. They were found in Southeast Asia. Lemons were used for flavoring. They were also used for medicine. Lemons spread to the Mediterranean. The oldest known bananas date to about 7,000 years ago. They were found in Southeast Asia. Bananas were domesticated from wild species. They became a staple in many regions. Bananas are now a global fruit. The oldest known watermelon dates to about 5,000 years ago. It was found in Egypt. Watermelon was used for water. It was also used for food. Watermelon was valued for its sweetness. The oldest known cucumber dates to about 4,000 years ago. It was found in India. Cucumbers were used for food. They were also used for medicine. Cucumbers spread to the Mediterranean. The oldest known lettuce dates to about 4,000 years ago. It was found in Egypt. Lettuce was used for food. It was also used for medicine. Lettuce was valued by the Egyptians. The oldest known mushroom cultivation was in China. It dates to about 1,000 years ago. Mushrooms were used for food. They were also used for medicine. Mushroom cultivation spread slowly. There is a term for the study of food, gastronomy. It covers the preparation and consumption of food. There is a term for the study of spices and herbs, herbalism. It is one of the oldest branches of knowledge. Every meal carries history. Every ingredient connects you to the past. We have traveled through food and drink, their origins, their paths to your plate. Now we turn to the sounds we make, the music we hear, the instruments we build. Sound is invisible, but it shapes us. We begin with the oldest known instrument. The oldest known musical instrument is a flute. It was made from bird bone. The flute dates to about 43,000 years ago. It was found in a cave in Germany. The flute had 5 finger holes. The oldest known drum dates to about 8,000 years ago. It was found in China. The drum was made from clay. It was used for ceremonies. The drum created a steady rhythm. The oldest known string instrument is a lyre. It dates to about 4,500 years ago. It was found in Mesopotamia. The lyre was made from wood and gut strings. It was used for accompaniment. The oldest known piano is from the early 1700s. It was invented by Bartolomeo Cristofori. The first pianos were small and quiet. They were called pianoforte, meaning soft loud. The piano evolved over time. The oldest known guitar dates to about 4,000 years ago. It was found in Egypt. The guitar was a simple instrument. It was made from wood. The guitar had 3 strings. The oldest known violin dates to the early 1500s. The first violins were made in Italy. They were made by Andrea Amati. The violin was used for dance music. The design has changed little. The oldest known trumpet dates to about 3,000 years ago. It was found in Egypt. The trumpet was made from bronze. It was used for military signals. The trumpet was loud and clear. The oldest known horn dates to about 2,000 years ago. It was made from animal horn. The horn was used for hunting. It was also used for signaling. The horn was simple but effective. The oldest known organ dates to about 2,000 years ago. It was called the hydraulis. It was a water-powered organ. The organ was used for entertainment. It was loud and complex. The oldest known notation system is from ancient Mesopotamia. It dates to about 4,000 years ago. The notation was written on clay tablets. It indicated intervals and rhythms. The notation is the earliest known example of music writing. The oldest known song is the Hurrian hymn. It was written in cuneiform. It dates to about 3,400 years ago. The hymn was dedicated to a lunar deity. The text includes musical instructions. The oldest known polyphony is from the 9th century. It is called Musica Enchiriadis. The text describes singing in intervals. It is the earliest known example of harmony. Polyphony became more complex over time. The oldest known opera is from 1597. It was called Daphne. The opera was written by Jacopo Peri. The opera was inspired by Greek drama. It is now lost. The oldest known symphony is from the mid-1700s. It was written by Joseph Haydn. Haydn wrote over 100 symphonies. His first symphony was written in 1759. The symphony form became dominant. The oldest known piano concerto is from the late 1700s. It was written by Mozart. Mozart wrote over 20 piano concertos. His first concerto was written in 1773. The concerto became a standard form. The oldest known record player is from 1877. It was invented by Thomas Edison. The player used a cylindrical cylinder. It recorded and played back sound. The sound quality was poor but revolutionary. The oldest known audio recording is from 1860. It was made by Edward Leon Scott. The recording is a visual representation of sound. It was not meant to be played back. The recording is the earliest known sound. The oldest known commercial music recording is from 1888. It was a recording of a brass band. The recording was made on a cylinder. It was sold by the Edison Company. The sound quality is low but audible. The oldest known vinyl record is from 1948. It was made by Columbia Records. The record was 33 1/3 RPM. It was the first long-playing record. The record changed the music industry. The oldest known cassette tape is from 1963. It was developed by Philips. The tape was compact and portable. It was used for music and speech. The cassette became popular in the 1970s. The oldest known compact disc is from 1982. It was developed by Sony and Philips. The first CD was a recording of Beethoven. The CD was promoted as the future of music. The quality was superior to vinyl. The oldest known music streaming service is from 2001. It was called Napster. Napster allowed users to share music. The service was controversial. It changed the music industry. The oldest known music festival is the Pythian Games. It was held in ancient Greece. The games included music and poetry. The Pythian Games were held every 4 years. They honored a legendary hero. The oldest known scale is the pentatonic scale. It is 5 notes. The scale is common in folk music. It appears in many cultures. The scale is simple but versatile. The oldest known mode is the Dorian mode. It is a minor scale. It was used in ancient Greece. The mode is still used in jazz. It has a distinct sound. The oldest known chord is the interval. Intervals are the basis of harmony. They were described by Pythagoras. He studied the mathematics of sound. His work is still relevant. The oldest known tuning system is Pythagorean tuning. It was developed by Pythagoras. The tuning is based on ratios. It is still used in some music. The tuning is pure but limited. The oldest known rhythm is the heartbeat. It is the first sound we hear. We are born with a sense of rhythm. Rhythm is the foundation of music. It mirrors our biology. The oldest known lullaby is from Babylon. It dates to about 2,000 years ago. The lullaby was used to soothe children. It was written on a clay tablet. The lyrics ask the child to sleep. The oldest known work song is from Egypt. It dates to about 3,000 years ago. The song was used by workers. It was sung to coordinate labor. The song had a steady beat. The oldest known love song is from ancient Egypt. It dates to about 4,000 years ago. The song was written on papyrus. The lyrics are about longing. The song is brief but evocative. The oldest known war song is from ancient Greece. It was sung by soldiers. The song was used to boost morale. It was called a paean. The paean was often sung before battle. The oldest known marching song is from the Roman Empire. It was used by soldiers on the march. The song kept the pace. The soldiers sang to pass the time. The song is now lost. The oldest known nursery rhyme is Hey Diddle Diddle. It dates to at least the 16th century. The rhyme is about a cat and a fiddle. The meaning is unclear. The rhyme is still used. The oldest known Christmas carol is from the 4th century. It was composed in Latin. The carol was called Veni Veni Emmanuel. The carol is still sung. It is one of the oldest hymns. The oldest known hymn is from ancient Egypt. It was dedicated to a god. The hymn was sung in temples. The text is preserved on papyrus. The melody is unknown. There is a term for the study of music, musicology. It covers history, theory, and performance. There is a term for the study of sound, acoustics. It covers the physics of sound. Music is as old as humanity. It is the sound of being alive. We have moved through sound and music, their instruments, their notations, their ancient rhythms. Now we turn to the smallest things, to the particles that make up everything, the elements that form the world, the numbers that measure the invisible. These are the quiet building blocks of existence. We begin with the smallest known particle. The smallest known particle is the quark. Quarks are fundamental particles. They combine to form protons and neutrons. Quarks are never found alone. They are always bound together. The smallest known atom is hydrogen. It has 1 proton and 1 electron. Hydrogen is the most abundant element. It makes up about 75% of the universe. Hydrogen is simple but essential. The smallest known molecule is diatomic hydrogen. It consists of 2 hydrogen atoms. The molecule is stable and light. It is the simplest molecule. Hydrogen gas is common in space. The smallest known virus is the porcine circovirus. It is about 17 nanometers in diameter. The virus is one of the smallest known pathogens. It infects pigs. The virus is simple but effective. The smallest known bacterium is Mycoplasma genitalium. It is about 200 nanometers in size. The bacterium has a minimal genome. It is one of the smallest known organisms. The bacterium is parasitic. The smallest known cell is a mycoplasma. It is a type of bacteria. The cell has no cell wall. The cell is simple and small. It is a model organism. The smallest known organism is a nanobee. It is a tiny life form. Nanobees are about 20 nanometers in size. They were found in rocks. Their classification is uncertain. The smallest known seed belongs to the orchid. Orchid seeds are dust-like. They are about the size of a grain of salt. The seeds have no endosperm. They rely on fungi for nutrients. The smallest known bird is the bee hummingbird. It is about 5 centimeters long. It weighs about 2 grams. The bird is found in Cuba. The bee hummingbird is delicate and fast. The smallest known mammal is the bumblebee bat. It is about 3 centimeters long. It weighs about 2 grams. The bat is found in Thailand. The bumblebee bat is the smallest mammal. The smallest known reptile is the dwarf gecko. It is about 2 centimeters long. The gecko is found in Madagascar. It is one of the smallest reptiles. The gecko is small but active. The smallest known fish is the Paedocyprus. It is about 7 millimeters long. The fish is found in Southeast Asia. It is the smallest known vertebrate. The fish is transparent. The smallest known insect is the fairy fly. It is about 200 micrometers long. The fairy fly is a wasp. It is parasitic. The insect is small but functional. The smallest known spider is the patu digua. It is about 300 micrometers long. The spider is found in Colombia. It is one of the smallest spiders. The spider is harmless. The smallest known frog is the Paedophrine amauensis. It is about 7 millimeters long. The frog is found in Papua New Guinea. It is the smallest known frog. The frog is small and brown. The smallest known snake is the thread snake. It is about 10 centimeters long. The snake is found in the Caribbean. It is one of the smallest snakes. The snake is harmless. The smallest known turtle is the speckled padloper. It is about 8 centimeters long. The turtle is found in South Africa. It is the smallest known turtle. The turtle is small and shy. The smallest known shark is the dwarf lantern shark. It is about 20 centimeters long. The shark is found in the Caribbean. It is one of the smallest sharks. The shark has bioluminescent organs. The smallest known whale is the dwarf sperm whale. It is about 2.5 meters long. The whale is found in tropical waters. It is one of the smallest whales. The whale is elusive. The smallest known dinosaur is Compsognathus. It was about 1 meter long. The dinosaur was the size of a chicken. It lived in Europe. The dinosaur was a predator. The smallest known planet is Mercury. It has a diameter of about 4,800 kilometers. Mercury is the smallest planet in the solar system. It is about the size of Earth's moon. Mercury is dense and hot. The smallest known star is Eblum J0555-57ab. It is about the size of Saturn. The star is just barely large enough for fusion. It is one of the smallest known stars. The star is dim and cool. The smallest known galaxy is Segway 2. It contains about 1,000 stars. The galaxy is a satellite of the Milky Way. It is one of the smallest known galaxies. The galaxy is faint and compact. The smallest known black hole is XTE J1650500. It is about 3 times the mass of the Sun. It is one of the smallest known black holes. The black hole is dense and small. It is difficult to detect. The smallest known earthquake is a microquake. It has a magnitude of less than 2. Microquakes are common. They are not felt by humans. They are recorded by instruments. The smallest known wave is a capillary wave. It is a wave on the surface of water. The wave is driven by surface tension. The wave is small and fast. It is observed in ripples. The smallest known measurement is the Planck length. It is about 10 to the negative 35 meters. The Planck length is the smallest meaningful distance. It is derived from fundamental constants. It is theoretical and small. The smallest known time interval is the Planck time. It is about 5.3 times 10 to the negative 44 seconds. The Planck time is the smallest meaningful time. It is derived from fundamental constants. It is theoretical and brief. The smallest known unit of currency is the Iranian rial. It is divided into dinars. The dinar is the smallest unit. The dinar is not widely used. The rial is the official currency. The smallest known number is 0. It represents nothing. 0 is both a number and a concept. It is used in mathematics and philosophy. 0 is essential to counting. The smallest known angle is the arcsecond. It is 1/3600th of a degree. The arcsecond is used in astronomy. It measures tiny angles. The arcsecond is precise. The smallest known weight is the milligram. It is 1,000th of a gram. The milligram is used in medicine. It measures small amounts. The milligram is common. The smallest known volume is the milliliter. It is 1,000th of a liter. The milliliter is used in cooking and medicine. It measures small volumes. The milliliter is practical. The smallest known speed is 0. It is the speed of a stationary object. 0 speed is common. It is the baseline for motion. 0 is a starting point. The smallest known temperature is absolute 0. It is minus 273.15 degrees Celsius. Absolute 0 is the lowest possible temperature. It is theoretical. No object can reach absolute 0. The smallest known pressure is a vacuum. It is the absence of pressure. A vacuum is used in science. It is the baseline for pressure. A vacuum is empty. There is a term for the study of the very small, nanotechnology. It works at the scale of nanometers. There is a term for the study of atoms, chemistry. It covers the structure of matter. Everything is made of something smaller, and you are made of all of it. We have explored the smallest things, particles, atoms, the building blocks of matter. Now we turn to the spaces between, to the gaps, the absences, the things that are not there, to the empty places that define the full ones. These are the quiet voids that shape the world. We begin with the space between atoms. Atoms are mostly empty space. The nucleus is tiny compared to the atom. If an atom were the size of a football stadium, the nucleus would be the size of a marble. The electrons would be specks of dust orbiting at the edges. You are mostly empty space. The space between stars is called interstellar space. It is not completely empty. It contains gas, dust, and cosmic rays. The density is about 1 atom per cubic centimeter. That is far less than any vacuum on Earth. The space between galaxies is called intergalactic space. It is even more empty. The density is about 1 atom per cubic meter. The space is vast and nearly featureless. It is the emptiest known region. The space inside a vacuum tube is nearly empty. The pressure is extremely low. The tube is used in electronics. The vacuum allows electrons to flow freely. The space is empty but functional. The space inside a black hole is a singularity. The mass is compressed to 0 volume. The space-time curvature is infinite. The singularity is unobservable. It is the ultimate void. The space between your thoughts is called the gap. It is the pause between sentences. The gap is small but significant. It allows for reflection. The gap is where silence lives. The space between breaths is called the pause. It is the moment when you are neither inhaling nor exhaling. The pause is brief but regular. It happens about 12 times per minute. The pause is the quiet part of breathing. The space between heartbeats is called the diastole. It is the moment when the heart relaxes. The diastole allows the heart to refill. It is the resting phase. The diastole is essential for circulation. The space between notes in music is called the rest. It is a silence in the music. The rest is notated on the staff. It is as important as the notes. The rest shapes the rhythm. The space between words is called the word gap. It is the pause that separates meaning. The gap is small but crucial. Without it, words blur together. The gap makes language comprehensible. The space between lines is called leading. It is the space in typography. The leading affects readability. Too little leading makes text cramped. Too much leading makes text loose. The space between paragraphs is called the paragraph break. It signals a new idea. The break is a visual pause. It helps organize writing. The break is standard in all texts. The space between chapters is called the chapter break. It signals a shift in narrative. The break allows for reflection. It gives the reader a moment to pause. The break is common in books. The space between pages is called the gutter. It is the inner margin of a book. The gutter allows for binding. It also gives the reader space to hold the book. The gutter is often overlooked. The space between shelves is called the shelf gap. It is the space above books. The gap allows for access. It also prevents books from being too tight. The gap is practical. The space between buildings is called a setback. It is the distance between structures. The setback allows for light and air. It also prevents the spread of fire. The setback is regulated by law. The space between trees in a forest is called canopy gap. It is the opening in the leaves. The gap allows light to reach the ground. It also allows for new growth. The gap is part of the forest cycle. The space between mountains is called a valley. It is the low land between peaks. The valley is formed by erosion. It is often where water flows. The valley is fertile and inhabited. The space between rivers is called the watershed. It is the land that drains into a river. The watershed is defined by topography. It is a natural boundary. The watershed is important for water management. The space between ocean waves is called the trough. It is the lowest point of the wave. The trough is followed by the crest. The trough is the gap in the wave. It is part of the wave cycle. The space between dunes is called the interdune. It is the flat area between sand hills. The interdune is often vegetated. It is a transition zone. The interdune is part of the desert landscape. The space between islands is called a strait. It is a narrow waterway. The strait connects larger bodies of water. It is often used for navigation. The strait is a passage. The space between continents is called an ocean. It is the vast body of water. The ocean covers about 70% of Earth. It is deep and dark. The ocean is the largest space on the planet. The space between Earth and sky is called the horizon. It is where they meet. The horizon is an optical illusion. It changes with altitude. The horizon is the boundary of visibility. The space between day and night is called twilight. It is the period of transition. Twilight occurs twice a day. It is a time of soft light. Twilight is peaceful and brief. The space between seasons is called the equinox. It is when day and night are equal. The equinox occurs twice a year. It marks the change of seasons. The equinox is a moment of balance. The space between years is called the new year. It is a transition point. The new year is a calendar event. It is marked by celebration. The new year is a time of reflection. The space between lives is called the unknown. It is what comes after. The unknown is not knowable. It is the ultimate void. The unknown is beyond our experience. The space between stars in a constellation is called the negative space. It is the area not occupied by stars. The negative space defines the shape. It is what makes the constellation recognizable. The negative space is as important as the stars. The space between colors is called the neutral zone. It is where colors blend. The neutral zone is often gray. It is a transition between hues. The neutral zone is subtle but important. The space between flavors is called the palate cleanser. It is the food that clears the taste. The cleanser is often simple. It resets the palate. The cleanser allows for the next flavor. The space between emotions is called the neutral state. It is the absence of strong feeling. The neutral state is calm. It is a baseline of experience. The neutral state is where you drift off. The space between waking and sleeping is called hypnagogia. It is the transitional state. Hypnagogia is a time of imagery and thought. It is where dreams begin. Hypnagogia is the threshold of sleep. The space between you and sleep is closing now. It is the gap that narrows as you listen. The gap is filled with quiet facts and slow breaths. Sleep is not a place you arrive at. It is a space you sink into. We have explored the spaces between things, the gaps, the absences, the voids that define what is full. Now we turn to the water that surrounds us, to the oceans, the rivers, the drops that fall from the sky. Water is everywhere and nowhere. It covers most of the planet, yet we rarely think about it. We begin with the water you cannot see. The human body is about 60% water. That percentage varies by age and sex. Infants are about 75% water. The water in your body is distributed across cells, blood, and organs. You are mostly water, but you are not aware of it. The brain is about 73% water. The heart is about 73% water. The lungs are about 83% water. The muscles are about 79% water. Even your bones are about 31% water. Water is everywhere inside you. You lose about 2 to 3 liters of water per day. You lose it through sweat, urine, and breath. You lose it even while sleeping. The loss must be replaced. The replacement is automatic. The average person drinks about 2 liters of water per day. That is about 8 glasses. The amount varies by activity and climate. The water comes from drinks and food. The intake is usually sufficient. Water covers about 71% of the Earth's surface. That is about 360 million square kilometers. The water is mostly in the oceans. The oceans hold about 97% of the Earth's water. The rest is fresh. About 68% of the fresh water is frozen in ice caps and glaciers. The ice is in Antarctica and Greenland. The ice is melting slowly. The meltwater flows into the oceans. The water cycle continues. About 30% of fresh water is underground. It is called groundwater. The groundwater is stored in aquifers. The aquifers are replenished by rain. The water is used for drinking and irrigation. Only about 1% of fresh water is in rivers and lakes. That is a very small amount. The water is visible and accessible. It is used for drinking and recreation. The water is essential. The largest lake by surface area is the Caspian Sea. It is about 371,000 square kilometers. The lake is salty, but it is not an ocean. It is the largest enclosed body of water on Earth. The deepest lake is Lake Baikal in Russia. It is about 1,637 meters deep. The lake holds about 22% of the world's fresh surface water. It is also the oldest lake, at about 25 million years old. The lake is unique. The longest river is the Nile River. It is about 6,650 kilometers long. The Nile flows through 11 countries. It is the primary water source for Egypt and Sudan. The river is ancient and vital. The largest river by volume is the Amazon River. It discharges about 209,000 cubic meters per second. That is more than the next 7 rivers combined. The Amazon is wide and deep. The river is powerful. The highest waterfall is Angel Falls in Venezuela. It drops about 979 meters. The water falls uninterrupted. The height is about 19 times the height of Niagara Falls. The waterfall is remote. The largest waterfall by volume is Inga Falls on the Congo River. It has a flow rate of about 25,000 cubic meters per second. The waterfall is not as high as Angel Falls. It is wider and more powerful. The fastest ocean current is the Antarctic Circumpolar Current. It flows from west to east around Antarctica. The current is driven by the westerly winds. It carries about 130 million cubic meters per second. The current is strong and constant. The highest tide is the Bay of Fundy in Canada. The tide can rise up to 16 meters. That is about the height of a 5-story building. The tides are caused by the shape of the bay. The tide is extreme. The lowest tide is in the Mediterranean Sea. The tide is only about 30 centimeters. The Mediterranean is nearly tideless. The tides are minimal. The water is calm. The saltiest ocean is the Atlantic Ocean. The salinity is about 35 parts per thousand. The salt comes from rocks and minerals. The salt is dissolved in the water. The Atlantic is salty. The freshest ocean is the Arctic Ocean. The salinity is about 30 parts per thousand. The ice melt dilutes the water. The Arctic is colder and less salty. The ocean is unique. The most isolated water is in the Pacific Ocean. It is called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. The patch is a collection of floating plastic. The water is polluted. The patch is a problem. The most polluted water is in the Yangtze River. The river carries industrial waste. The water is not safe to drink. The pollution is severe. The river is being cleaned. The most acidic water is in the ocean. The acidity is caused by carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide dissolves in the water. The acidity affects marine life. The ocean is acidifying. The most alkaline water is in Lake Natron, in Tanzania. The pH is about 10.5. The water is extremely basic. The lake is home to flamingos. The flamingos thrive in the alkaline water. The most colorful water is in the Great Blue Hole. It is a marine sinkhole in Belize. The water is deep blue. The hole is about 124 meters deep. The water is stunning. The most clear water is in Lake Baikal. The water is visible to a depth of about 40 meters. The clarity is due to low pollution. The lake is pristine. The water is transparent. The most warm water is in the Persian Gulf. The temperature can reach 35 degrees Celsius. The water is hot and salty. The heat is caused by the shallow depth. The water is warm. The most cold water is in the Antarctic Ocean. The temperature can reach -2 degrees Celsius. The water is just below freezing. The cold water is dense and sinks. The water is frigid. The most deep water is in the Mariana Trench. The depth is about 11,000 meters. The pressure is immense. The water is cold and dark. The depth is extreme. The most shallow water is in the Sundarbans. The water is only about 3 meters deep. The region is a delta. The water is brackish. The area is home to tigers. The most turbulent water is in the Drake Passage. The passage is between South America and Antarctica. The waves can reach over 12 meters. The water is rough. The passage is challenging. The most calm water is in the Sargasso Sea. The sea is in the North Atlantic. The water is still and clear. The sea is named for the sargassum seaweed. The sea is calm. The most unique water is in the Dead Sea. The salinity is about 34%. The water is too salty for fish. The water is dense and buoyant. The Dead Sea is a natural wonder. The most endangered water is in the Aral Sea. The sea has shrunk by about 90%. The water was diverted for irrigation. The sea is drying up. The loss is catastrophic. The most vital water is in your body. It keeps you alive. It regulates your temperature. It transports nutrients. It removes waste. There is a term for the study of water, hydrology. It covers the distribution and movement of water. There is a term for the study of oceans, oceanography. It covers the chemistry, physics, and biology of the sea. Water is the source of all life. It flows through you and around you. It is the quiet constant of existence. We have moved through water, its depths, its currents, its silent presence in your body. Now we turn to the air around you, to the invisible mixture that fills your lungs, carries sound, and shapes the sky. Air is everywhere, but we rarely notice it. We begin with the composition of a single breath. The air you breathe is about 78% nitrogen. It is about 21% oxygen. The remaining 1% is argon, carbon dioxide, and trace gases. You inhale this mixture with every breath. You exhale a slightly different mixture, richer in carbon dioxide. The average person takes about 20,000 breaths per day. That is about 12 to 20 breaths per minute. Each breath moves about half a liter of air in and out. Over a lifetime, you will breathe about 20 million liters of air. The volume is vast but invisible. The air has weight. It exerts pressure on everything. At sea level, the pressure is about 101 kilopascals. That is about 14.7 pounds per square inch. You do not feel it because your body pushes back. The pressure is constant. The air becomes thinner at higher altitudes. At the top of Mount Everest, the pressure is about 1/3 of sea level. The air contains less oxygen. Climbers need supplemental oxygen to survive. The air is thin but breathable. The air is warmer near the ground. It cools as it rises. The temperature drops about 6.5 degrees Celsius per kilometer. This is called the lapse rate. The lapse rate is a standard measure. The air is more humid near the equator. It is drier near the poles. The humidity is the amount of water vapor in the air. The air can hold more water vapor when it is warm. The humidity affects how you feel. The air in a room is about 1 cubic meter per person. That is the volume of air needed for comfort. The air is replaced by ventilation. The air moves continuously. The movement is gentle. The air in your lungs is about 37 degrees Celsius. It is warmed by your body. The air is also humidified. The moisture comes from your respiratory tract. The air is conditioned before it reaches your alveoli. The air in a sneeze travels at about 160 kilometers per hour. That is about 45 meters per second. The droplets can travel up to 6 meters. The sneeze is fast and far. The droplets are invisible. The air in a cough travels at about 80 kilometers per hour. That is slower than a sneeze. The droplets are larger. The cough is less forceful. The droplets still travel. The air in a whisper is about 30 decibels. That is quiet. The air moves slowly across the vocal cords. The sound is soft and intimate. The whisper is barely audible. The air in a normal conversation is about 60 decibels. That is moderate. The air moves with more force. The sound is clear and distinct. The conversation is natural. The air in a shout is about 100 decibels. That is loud. The air moves with great force. The sound can damage hearing. The shout is rare in daily life. The air in a scream is about 120 decibels. That is very loud. The air moves with extreme force. The sound is piercing. The scream is alarming. The air in a jet engine is about 150 decibels. That is extremely loud. The air moves at high speed. The sound is deafening. The jet engine is a source of noise pollution. The air in a wind tunnel moves at high speeds. The speed can exceed the speed of sound. The air is used to test aerodynamics. The wind tunnel is a tool. The air is controlled and measured. The air in a tornado moves in a spiral. The wind speed can exceed 400 kilometers per hour. The air is destructive. The tornado is dangerous. The air is violent. The air in a hurricane moves in a spiral as well. The wind speed can exceed 250 kilometers per hour. The air is destructive. The hurricane is large and powerful. The air is intense. The air in a breeze moves at about 10 kilometers per hour. That is gentle. The air rustles leaves. The air is pleasant. The breeze is common. The air in a gale moves at about 60 kilometers per hour. That is strong. The air can break branches. The air is uncomfortable. The gale is rare. The air in a storm moves at about 100 kilometers per hour. That is severe. The air can damage structures. The air is powerful. The storm is disruptive. The air in the atmosphere extends about 10,000 kilometers. The atmosphere is thin at the top. The air is mostly near the surface. The atmosphere protects the planet. The air is essential. The air in the stratosphere contains the ozone layer. The ozone layer absorbs ultraviolet radiation. The radiation is harmful. The ozone layer protects life. The air is vital. The air in the ionosphere is electrically charged. The ions reflect radio waves. The waves travel long distances. The ionosphere is a natural reflector. The air is unique. The air in the exosphere is the outermost layer. The air is extremely thin. The molecules can escape into space. The exosphere is the edge of the atmosphere. The air is sparse. The air in a vacuum is absent. The vacuum is a space without air. The vacuum is used in science. The vacuum is empty. The air is not present. The air in a balloon is heated by a burner. The hot air rises. The balloon lifts off the ground. The air is lighter than the surrounding air. The balloon is a simple machine. The air in a tire is compressed. The pressure is about 30 to 40 pounds per square inch. The compressed air supports the weight of the car. The air is necessary for the tire. The air is under pressure. The air in a scuba tank is compressed to about 200 atmospheres. The pressure is high. The tank holds enough air for about an hour. The air is essential for diving. The air is under pressure. The air in a syringe is used to deliver medicine. The air is replaced by the medicine. The syringe is a simple tool. The air is used to create pressure. The air is functional. There is a term for the study of air and its behavior, aerology. It covers the atmosphere and its processes. There is a term for the study of air in motion, aerodynamics. It covers the forces and flows of air. The air is the medium of sound and breath. It moves through you and around you. It is the quiet carrier of life. We have moved through the air, its composition, its weight, its silent motion. Now we turn to the energy that surrounds us, to the heat, the light, the forces that shape the world. Energy is everywhere, but it is rarely seen. We begin with the energy of the sun. The sun produces about 3.8 times 10 to the 26th watts of power. That is an enormous amount of energy. The energy is generated by nuclear fusion. The energy travels through space. It reaches Earth in about 8 minutes. The Earth receives about 1,366 watts of solar energy per square meter. That is the solar constant. The energy is absorbed by the atmosphere and surface. The energy drives the climate. The energy is essential. The energy of sunlight is about 43% visible light. About 49% is infrared. About 7% is ultraviolet. The visible light is what you see. The infrared is heat. The energy of a single photon is very small. It is about 10 to the negative 19th joules. The photon is a particle of light. The energy is tiny. The photon is fundamental. The energy of a lightning bolt is about 1 billion joules. That is enough to power a home for about a month. The bolt is brief but powerful. The energy is released in a fraction of a second. The energy is intense. The energy of a human heartbeat is about 1 joule per beat. That is a small amount of energy. The heart beats about 100,000 times per day. The total energy is about 100,000 joules. The energy is steady. The energy of a calorie is about 4.184 joules. A calorie is the amount of energy needed to raise 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius. The calorie is used to measure food energy. The calorie is small. The energy of a kilowatt hour is about 3.6 million joules. A kilowatt hour is the amount of energy used by a 1,000 watt appliance in 1 hour. The unit is used for electricity. The energy is practical. The energy of a gallon of gasoline is about 130 million joules. The gasoline releases energy when burned. The energy is used to power cars. The energy is dense. The energy of a ton of TNT is about 4.18 billion joules. That is the energy of an explosion. The energy is used in explosives. The energy is destructive. The energy of a nuclear bomb is about 100 trillion joules. That is the energy released by a fission reaction. The bomb is devastating. The energy is immense. The energy of an earthquake is about 10 to the 18th joules. That is the energy of a magnitude 8 earthquake. The earthquake is destructive. The energy is vast. The energy of the tides is about 10 to the 21st joules. That is the energy of the ocean's movement. The tides are driven by the moon. The energy is renewable. The energy of the wind is about 10 to the 21st joules. That is the energy of moving air. The wind is driven by the sun. The energy is renewable. The energy of the Earth's rotation is about 10 to the 29th joules. That is the energy of the planet's spin. The rotation is slowing down. The energy is dissipated. The energy of the sun is about 10 to the 47th joules. That is the energy of the star. The sun will burn for billions of years. The energy is vast. The energy of the universe is about 10 to the 70th joules. That is the total energy of everything. The universe is expanding. The energy is distributed. The energy of matter is described by E equals mc squared. That is Einstein's equation. The energy is equal to mass times the speed of light squared. The equation is simple but profound. The energy is immense. The energy of a black hole is about 10 to the 46th joules. That is the energy of a supermassive black hole. The black hole is dense and powerful. The energy is gravitational. The energy of a photon is related to its frequency. Higher frequency means higher energy. The frequency determines the color. The energy is quantized. The photon is a quantum. The energy of a sound wave is about 10 to the negative 10th joules. That is the energy of a whisper. The sound wave is weak. The energy is small. The energy of a human voice is about 10 to the negative 5th joules. That is the energy of a conversation. The voice is moderate. The energy is enough to be heard. The energy of a car engine is about 100,000 joules per second. That is the power of a car. The engine is powerful. The energy is consumed. The energy of a jet engine is about 1 million joules per second. That is the power of a jet. The engine is powerful. The energy is used for flight. The energy of a rocket engine is about 10 million joules per second. That is the power of a rocket. The engine is immense. The energy is used for escape. The energy of a laser is about 1 joule per pulse. That is the energy of a laser pointer. The laser is focused. The energy is concentrated. The energy of a microwave is about 1,000 joules per second. That is the power of a microwave oven. The oven heats food. The energy is converted to heat. The energy of a refrigerator is about 100 joules per second. That is the power of a refrigerator. The refrigerator cools food. The energy is used for cooling. The energy of a light bulb is about 60 watts. That is the power of a standard bulb. The bulb produces light and heat. The energy is consumed. The energy of an LED is about 10 watts. That is the power of an LED bulb. The LED is efficient. The energy is used for light. The energy of a computer is about 200 watts. That is the power of a standard computer. The computer processes information. The energy is consumed. The energy of a smartphone is about 5 watts. That is the power of a smartphone. The phone is portable and efficient. The energy is used for communication. The energy of a human body is about 100 watts at rest. That is the power of a sleeping person. The body produces heat. The energy is metabolic. The energy of exercise is about 500 watts. That is the power of a person running. The body is active. The energy is consumed. The energy of a meal is about 2,000 calories. That is about 8 million joules. The energy is stored in the food. The energy is used for activity. There is a term for the study of energy: thermodynamics. It covers the laws of energy transfer. There is a term for the study of light: optics. It covers the behavior of light. Energy flows through everything. It powers your cells and lights the stars. It is the quiet current of existence. We have moved through energy, its sources, its flows, its quiet power. Now we turn to the final section, to the places we have not yet gone, to the edges of knowledge, the limits of measurement, the things we still do not know. There is comfort in the unknown. It is where curiosity rests. We begin with the edge of the solar system. The edge of the solar system is defined by the heliopause. It is the boundary where the solar wind meets interstellar space. The heliopause is about 120 astronomical units from the Sun. The Voyager probes have crossed it. The boundary is the edge of the Sun's influence. The edge of the solar system is not a physical wall. It is a transition zone. The solar wind slows and stops. The interstellar medium begins. The boundary is diffuse. It is a gradual shift. The edge of the galaxy is not well defined. The Milky Way is about 100,000 light-years across. The edge is where the stars thin out. The edge is not sharp. The galaxy fades. The edge of the observable universe is about 46 billion light-years away. That is the limit of what we can see. The light from beyond has not reached us. The edge is expanding. The universe is growing. The edge of knowledge is called the frontier. It is where science meets uncertainty. The frontier is always moving. Each discovery pushes it further. The frontier is the edge of human understanding. The number of unknown species is vast. About 86% of all species on Earth have not been described. That is over 1 million species. The unknown species are mostly in the oceans and rainforests. They are waiting to be found. The number of unknown archaeological sites is also vast. Only a fraction of the Earth has been excavated. Many sites remain buried. The unknown sites hold the past. They are waiting to be uncovered. The number of unknown stars is beyond count. There are more stars in the universe than grains of sand on Earth. Most are unobserved. The unknown stars are out there. They are waiting to be seen. The number of unknown planets is also vast. Most exoplanets have not been discovered. The known planets are only a fraction. The unknown planets are out there. They are waiting to be found. The number of unknown chemicals is infinite. New compounds are synthesized every day. The unknown chemicals have properties we have not imagined. They are waiting to be created. The number of unknown languages is dwindling. About 40% of languages are endangered. The unknown languages are disappearing. They are waiting to be recorded. The number of unknown histories is also dwindling. Many histories have been lost. The unknown histories are buried in archives and memory. They are waiting to be told. The number of unknown cures is vast. Many diseases remain incurable. The unknown cures are in plants, chemicals, and technologies. They are waiting to be discovered. The number of unknown inventions is infinite. Every day, new ideas are born. The unknown inventions will shape the future. They are waiting to be imagined. The number of unknown questions is infinite. Each answer leads to more questions. The unknown questions are the engine of inquiry. They are waiting to be asked. The number of unknown depths is also vast. The ocean floor is mostly unmapped. The unknown depths are dark and cold. They are waiting to be explored. The number of unknown heights is also vast. The upper atmosphere is still being studied. The unknown heights are thin and cold. They are waiting to be measured. The number of unknown times is also vast. The past is full of unrecorded moments. The unknown times are lost to history. They are waiting to be imagined. The number of unknown minds is also vast. Each person has thoughts and ideas. The unknown minds are full of potential. They are waiting to be expressed. The number of unknown emotions is also vast. Emotions are complex and personal. The unknown emotions are felt but not named. They are waiting to be understood. The number of unknown sounds is also vast. The world is full of unheard frequencies. The unknown sounds are outside human hearing. They are waiting to be recorded. The number of unknown colors is also vast. The human eye sees only a fraction of the spectrum. The unknown colors are outside our vision. They are waiting to be seen. The number of unknown textures is also vast. The world is full of unimagined surfaces. The unknown textures are outside our touch. They are waiting to be felt. The number of unknown flavors is also vast. The human palate is limited. The unknown flavors are outside our taste. They are waiting to be tasted. The number of unknown smells is also vast. The human nose is sensitive but limited. The unknown smells are outside our perception. They are waiting to be smelled. The number of unknown concepts is also vast. Ideas are infinite. The unknown concepts are waiting to be thought. They are waiting to be formed. The number of unknown connections is also vast. Everything is connected, but the connections are often invisible. The unknown connections are waiting to be recognized. They are waiting to be made. The number of unknown patterns is also vast. The world is full of patterns we have not noticed. The unknown patterns are waiting to be seen. They are waiting to be understood. The number of unknown rhythms is also vast. The world is full of cycles we have not observed. The unknown rhythms are waiting to be felt. They are waiting to be followed. The number of unknown silences is also vast. Silence is not empty. The unknown silences are waiting to be heard. They are waiting to be filled. If you are still awake, here is one last quiet thing. There is a term for the study of the unknown: agnotology. It is the study of ignorance, of what we do not know. The unknown is not a void. It is a space of possibility. It is where sleep lives and where dreams begin. Sleep well.